Part 100. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 994. Shakia was sitting opposite Sugu. She first noticed the abnormality and followed Sugu's line of sight to see the photos in the magazine. The background of the photo is a forest. A middle-aged man with stubble, blonde hair and blue eyes, and a thin face is holding his arms around the shoulders of his wife. The wife has neat short hair and still has charm. Two children stand in front of them, the elder brother. There is nothing special about these two handsome boys. For example, both parents have blonde hair, but the child has black hair, which makes people think very frighteningly. Although the chance is very small, it is not impossible. After all, as an admiral, he is well informed and knows many people. Who does the admiral know? Sugu came to his senses. He turned his head and looked at Fubo. Thinking of his performance just now, he said, "I don't know you. I just remembered something suddenly." "Are you homesick?" Ayanamai lowered her head and looked at the photo. She said, "I remember the admiral said before that the younger of the two brothers was moved by the scene when he saw the photo." "No, it's not that I'm homesick." The man shed tears when he did, but he didn't feel sad yet. He used to miss home a lot, and even curled up in the corner of the room crying alone. However, now that so many years have passed, he should have thought about it. After understanding, Sugu shook his head. "I don't know what to say, it's not a big deal anyway." After all, Sugu was still a little absent-minded, so Ayanamai and Shakia didn't ask any more questions. After a while, Sugu finally returned to normal. "Has Ayanamai been to Kyandeo Lake?" "Where's Shikinami?" "You must have been there before. You were in Shiratori Prefecture before, and it's not too far away. Think about it, you must have never been there, otherwise we must have met a long time ago. It's the hot spring hotel where Fuzu and Yamashiro used to work, in Kyoto next to it. Sitting in the hot spring in the courtyard, there are tall cherry blossoms above my head. The cherry blossoms slowly fall from the sky and create circles of ripples in the hot spring. It is so beautiful and the scenery is really good. Many people invited me to be a guest in their garrison, but I never had the chance to go. It is said that one of them, Ali, was the one who told me about your information in Batiao County. In fact, she originally wanted to teach me how to fish a boat. I wanted to fish you out, but in the end it was self-defeating, stealing the chicken but losing the rice. It doesn't matter, there is no way she can succeed, only I can." Everyone talked about travel again, and it was just casual chat. "I remember, Shakia, you were wearing a Maiko costume back then. It was so beautiful. Why aren't you wearing it now?" "Shirayuki's Kagura dance must be performed by her once this year," Sugu said. He suddenly thought of Akagi, otherwise he should leave it to her. "She happens to have black hair, and she has a G hairstyle, and there is nothing wrong with wearing a witch costume. Remember, she can also dance Kagura. She has a bold idea and feels that she is getting more and more evil." After chatting for a while, Sugu quickly left the library and stood on the corridor looking at the boundless blue sea in the distance. The sea breeze blew from a distance, which felt good. Looking back from the sea, Sugu saw a group of little Lolita playing some weird game on the grass of the town guard mansion. The little Lolita and the great shaman Somerez, who usually have an expressionless face, stood alone on the stone pier, with other little Lolita lining up in front of her. After saying something unknown, the thick leather book Somerez held in her hand automatically turned through many pages without wind. Then she raised her cane high and tapped the little Loli on the head. If both parties weren't cute little Lolita, it would be like a cult baptism scene. Sugu originally wanted to go and have a look, but seeing that one or two of them, the queue was getting smaller and smaller, and everyone jumped up and left, so he had no choice but to give up. The garrison is a bit small, but it lacks everything. Of course, there are definitely no football fields, golf courses, etc. that require huge land requirements, especially the latter. Sugu knows that there is only one townhouse that owns it. The rich second-generation admiral named Yuchin, the family is really rich. There is a roller skating rink in the Tutlari mansion, with 2 rooms connected. Many people like to come here to play when they have nothing to do, and the main audience is girls. Sugu liked the dance studio, especially watching Richelieu teach the little girl to dance. The little princess dreamed of having her white hair tied into 2 buns, wearing tight gym clothes, and being absolutely invincible regardless of her feet, buttocks, or slender waist. There is a bowling room, but there are fewer people playing here. Sugu saw Missouri and others in the billiards room. At this time, Missouri was standing next to the billiard table, holding a cue in the middle, rubbing the tip of the club with powder a few times, standing in the exact position with stroppy sandals, leaning down, and her long brown hair was not tied into a ponytail to avoid the hair affects the ball, but it is tucked behind the ears, revealing the fair ears, the shining star-shaped earrings, the slender jade fingers spread out and pressed against the table surface. The cue is placed in the hand. Calculating the angle. Boom. With a crisp sound, the white ball passed a red ball and hit the edge of the table and bounced back. The red ball slowly rolled into the bag, making it a really handsome and beautiful shot. Missouri walked to the other side and leaned down again, observing the path of the ball with extremely focused eyes. Sugu looked at Missouri, with her round butt raised and plump bust. He suddenly remembered a piece of news he had seen before. He wasn't too interested in billiards, but that piece of news was really interesting. To be honest, I don't remember the name of that player, but he had a great figure anyway. In a certain open game, he lost a key game due to a foul. The reason for the foul was not other things, but a big ball hitting a small ball. Wisconsin was sitting on the billiard table next to her. She had been in the town hall for more than half a year, and now instead of leaving, she had taken over the accounting job, which was basically fine. Hindenburg stared closely at Missouri's actions. Her expression was ugly. She couldn't score any more goals, or she would lose again. Enterprise was holding a cue, wearing a white shirt and cropped trousers, leaning on the billiard table next to her, her slender legs folded together. What a pair of unparalleled beautiful legs. She noticed Sugu walking into the billiards room, noticed his eyes, and whistled, jokingly said, "My saliva is going to flow out, my eyes are going to fall out." Sugu came to his senses and quickly explained, "How can?" When Missouri heard the sound, she raised her head and smiled very charmingly at Sugu Yanran, and then hit another beautiful shot, which made Hindenburg close his eyes. Consultant Su, how many versus how many? The company did not answer directly. What do you think of Hindenburg's bunny girl costume? Okay, Sugu knew that the two of them often worked together to bully people. Let's not talk about it for now. Missouri's favorite thing to do is to bully Hindenburg. Under her endless tricks, Hindenburg became so angry that she was really stupid. An honest person, I have worn bikinis, maid outfits, nurse outfits, bunny girl outfits, etc. all several times now. Wearing a white katyusha on her head and a black and white maid outfit, with her head lowered, her pretty face flushed, and her hands between her legs, Hindenburg is super cute. On the head of the head, one of the rabbit ears is raised and the other is folded down. The low-cut, backless tights outline a seductive arc. The butt is pressed against a cute plush tail. The black stockings wrap a pair of long legs, twisting and turning. The restless Hindenburg is so cute. Sugu smiled and shouted, "Thank you, Hindenburg, the bunny girl is so cute." Missouri put another black ball into the bag. She straightened up, put the club on her shoulders, and tilted her head. "Admiral, I am the one you should thank." "One family doesn't speak the same language," Sugu said. "Why are we husband and wife so polite?" Missouri smiled. "You pass." "Shut up," Hindenburg said. "The fight is not over yet, so we are not necessarily losing." Consultant Su, why does Hindenburg have the guts to play with Missouri? The company said, provoke the generals and make noise. Sugu said, all of you bully Hindenburg. Missouri finally lost her grip at this time. She ran to Sugu's side and leaned on his shoulder. Finally it was Hindenburg's turn, and her heart was already cold. Unless she bagged all the remaining balls in one go, it would definitely be impossible, otherwise she would have no chance of winning. The more nervous she became, the more mistakes she made. Hindenburg missed a hit, and the white ball almost went into the bag and was fouled. Missouri smiled and picked up the cue. With a simple glance, she was sure to win. So consulting enterprise, aren't you going to play? Business replied, watch Missouri and Hindenburg play. Sugu nodded, yes. How about we have a fight with Mr. Sue, the company said, the bet is women's clothing. Wisconsin jumped off the pool table, stretched, and said, what a great idea. I won't play. Sugu waved his hand, I'm not good at it. The company said, men can't say no, isn't that what you said? Sugu insisted, if it doesn't work, it won't work. Didn't you enjoy bullying my sister Bumblebee this morning? Enterprise said, give me a slap on the butt if you lose. Sugu was silent for a moment. Businesses don't need to gamble. If you want to shoot, just shoot. This is really sick, it stinks, Wisconsin said. Sugu burst out laughing, if you don't gamble, I'm really not good at it. Corporate booze. Enterprise, what should I do if you didn't say you lost? Wisconsin liked to watch dramas. She shouted, let's make some tempting bets, and maybe I'll agree. How could I lose? The company said, if I really lose, let him touch his legs. Wisconsin said, isn't it a butt? Missouri completely defeated Hindenburg. She walked over, Admiral, fight her, I will help you. The level of Missouri is obvious to all. She has a deeper understanding of the company and Missouri's good sisters, best friends, and best friends. She said, if you come to Missouri, I will definitely not bet, and I will definitely lose. Missouri said, I definitely won't take action directly. Come on, let me help you put the ball in place. Wisconsin held the triangle frame. She was really making trouble. Since you are so enthusiastic. Enterprise shrugged and lifted the club, but Missouri, if you lose, you have to give me a slap on the butt. Okay, the drunkard in Missouri doesn't care about drinking, winning or losing doesn't matter. Holding the cue, when Sugu leaned over the billiard table, Missouri pressed against his back, such a pair of soft and firm lips. Even though they were separated by two pieces of clothing, the elastic collision still made people feel fascinated, and the sexy lips right next to his ear, the breath was like orchid, making people itchy. Admiral, did you see that white ball? No, your grip on the club is wrong. Lower your head a little. The Admiral is so cute. I'm here to play ball. Enterprise threw the club down, I'm not here to see you two show affection in front of me. The dog food is not delicious at all. I'm used to it anyway, Wisconsin said. Sugu's billiard skills are really bad. Even with Missouri, he still lost miserably to the Enterprise in the end. The company said proudly, you two, raise your butts. The company gave Sugu a hard look to avenge Bumblebee. She rubbed her fingers and smiled happily, it feels good. Indeed, the Admiral's buttocks are very perky and feel very good. It was a trivial matter in the boudoir. Missouri also had experience, so she nodded. Sugu looked at Missouri with dangerous eyes. After playing a few more games and getting ready to end, Sugu took a glass of water to drink. The company said he would leave tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Sugu said, so fast. The company said, I'm not happy. The town hall held a banquet to celebrate the day before everyone returned to the town hall. It had indeed been a few days since the company came to the town hall. Sugu asked the company again, when will all the work be handed over? It's almost done, the company said, I will hand over everything this time when I go back. The Enterprise seemed to be running out of energy, so she continued, "Well, I will be very busy when I go back this time. Your governor has already paid a visit, but there are so many garrison offices in the nearby waters, as well as the ship girl branch, and we need a family. When I visit my family, I want to take St. George to get to know the way and the people." Montpelier, Fury, please. Sugu thought for a while. There are also Fletcher-class Little Beavers, Converse, Dyson, Potato Obanon, etc. Please help and pay attention. By the way, that. Before Sugu finished speaking, Enterprise said, "You still remember?" "Of course I remember." Enterprise curled his lips with a disgusted expression. "Go away, why don't you die?" Sugu smiled playfully, "At least help promote the town fort. For example, I left the ship girl headquarters to join the town for the sake of being the world's best town and the world's best admiral." The Enterprise sneered, "I will publicize it. The governor's house is very good, but the admiral is a big perverted pervert." Sugu said, "There's nothing wrong with it, you can promote it like this." The company said, "You are really shameless. Afternoon tea for the British team is absolutely indispensable." Sugu told she that he could not go to her team room tonight and would have to wait for another day. In the evening, Sugu sat in a coffee shop and bullied Kent, pinching her cheeks because she lost in a game. "Admiral." Kent hugged the ferocious tiger, looking pitiful and tearful. Feeling blessed, Sugu looked towards the corridor window and saw Leipzig holding a camera facing this way. With a dry smile, Leipzig ran very fast and suddenly disappeared. Sugu didn't chase after him. He finally remembered why he cared so much about the photo he saw in the geographical magazine in the afternoon. Yes, a photo, a group photo. Now that everyone returned to the town hall, they actually forgot to take a group photo. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 995. He pinched Kent's face hard, feeling like he was still a primary school student. The more he liked him, the more he bullied him. Sugu left the cafe thoughtfully. "Ma'am, I thought of it." Lexington put down the magazine in her hand. She saw Sugu holding onto the door frame and asked, "Admiral, what are you thinking of?" Sugu said, "Group photo, we lack a group photo in the town hall." "A photo?" Lexington blinked in confusion. Sugu raised his hands and gestured, and said, "I can't explain why, but we are a large family in the town government, and we must have a group photo. Everyone has a copy, and we also have one on the wall of our office. I put one on top of your desk and put a piece of glass. I met the company in the afternoon and they were playing billiards in the billiards room. She told me that she would leave our townhouse tomorrow or the day after tomorrow at most. She will be very busy with the handover work, and it is estimated that it will be difficult to be free in a few months. It just so happens that our garrison has no expedition missions or sorties in the near future. Otherwise, if you wait for a while, you go out today and she goes out tomorrow, the next time everyone is in the garrison, it is estimated that we will have to wait until the Mid-Autumn Festival. Maybe even the Mid-Autumn Festival will not work, then we will wait until New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. There is definitely no way to delay the attack. Once it is discovered that the deep-sea ship girl must appear, no matter day or night, sunny, rainy or hail day, the attack needs to be carried out. After all, it is related to the safety of people's lives and property. It is the Admiral's absolute obligation. Fortunately, the deep-sea ship girl appears. Not that often. In recent days, the reason why everyone stayed in the garrison was that the expedition was random and there were no requirements. The garrison with Africans to guard a sea area did not have enough manpower. Sugu turned down all the expedition tasks in advance. Sugu talked a lot and put forward all his ideas. Lexington was happy for everyone to take a group photo. Of course she was not interested. She had many photos with Sugu, on the roadside, under the shade of the trees, at the seaside, and in wedding photos. Just thinking about everyone, she joked, Admiral is really, don't you want to take a group photo and hang it in the room to show off the admirals who occasionally come to visit? Of course not, Sugu said, and a picture suddenly appeared in his mind. The admiral who usually came to visit sat in the office for a while and then left. Even if he invited them to walk around the governor's mansion, he was unwilling to see them all because he didn't want to see everyone they wanted. The battleship is like a cabbage. Now it can be shown off in the office. It is clear at a glance. You told me another reason why I have to take a group photo. Sugu made up his mind, I will inform everyone during breakfast tomorrow morning. Let's choose the grassland next to the playground. The background is the entire town hall, or it can also be on the pier. Lexington thought for a moment and said, if possible, the admiral had better inform everyone tonight. Why? Sugu said, everyone has nothing to do. It's just right to inform us during breakfast and then go directly to take pictures. Admiral thinks too simplistically, Lexington said. Admiral, a grown man, may not care. Even if you are an admiral, if you take a group photo tomorrow, please put on the admiral uniform. We are all girls, maybe some people don't care, mind you, like Bizai or something, girls still have to dress up and wear beautiful clothes. A loose vest and t-shirt, paired with a short skirt, bloomer shorts or hot pants, and a pair of slippers and sandals, this is how most people in the town guardhouse usually dress. For example, Wichita, Cologne, etc. are dedicated to seducing admirals. They choose knotted shirts, backless thin sweaters, open bra tops or even tube tops, which are special circumstances. Sugu said, don't be so particular. Lexington smiled and shook his head. Sugu didn't have any machismo, he didn't insist on his own opinion, no time waited for me, he nodded and volunteered to inform everyone. Sugu returned to the coffee shop again and saw Bazai sleeping lazily on the sofa, his head resting on the soft pillow on the armrest of the sofa, holding a comic book in his hands and reading it with gusto. There are fries, potato chips and Coke on the round table at hand. From time to time, he takes out a hand to pick up fries, potato chips, and takes a big sip of Coke. Bizai, we are going to take a group photo tomorrow morning. Sugu took a stick of French fries. Oh, Bizai responded, non-committal. Sugu was very dissatisfied with Bizai's performance. He took off her comics and slapped her plump thighs hard. Bizai, did you hear me talking to you? I heard it, Bazai finally responded. She touched her thigh and replied aggrievedly. Washington sat across from South Dakota with his legs crossed, and South Dakota turned his head. In the past, South Dakota liked to show off its ring in front of Washington, but now Washington has become a wedding ship, and everything is reversed. Of course, Washington was only showing off in front of South Dakota. She was not someone who liked to show off. Little fat man, that ring of yours is still beautiful. Washington turned the pair of rings on the ring finger of his left hand. Although the workmanship was exquisite and not simple, it was still a simple style. It's such a big diamond. It's going to blind your eyes. It's good that you know, South Dakota said sternly, my ring has diamonds, but yours doesn't. I wonder what kind of bargain it is. Washington laughed and said nothing. South Dakota still knew what the ring represented. She said something and didn't continue, so she still wanted to show off. Washington spoke again, I feel like I have gained weight recently. If I get any fatter, I won't be able to fit into the wedding dress. Washington rubbed his forehead, it will be a few days before the admiral comes to my room. Sugu walked over at this moment. Washington should not bully South Dakota. Yes, Sir. Washington was not acting coquettishly. She was usually very reserved even in bed, just to stimulate South Dakota. Sugu sighed. South Dakota is literally crying. Sugu told them that he was going to take a group photo tomorrow. Just as he was about to leave, South Dakota pulled his pants, with a pitiful expression, his big eyes full of tears, and sniffed, "Admiral, Admiral, I want that one too, please already." Sugu touched South Dakota's head, South Dakota's absolutely lovely girl, and comforted her, "Okay, okay. Bumblebee is playing Ludo, and her opponent is Little Loli." At this point, Little Loli doesn't go to bed so early, and the summer vacation can be postponed for half an hour. Northampton is sitting next to her to accompany her. Queen Elizabeth stood next to the newspaper and magazine rack, picked up a magazine, returned to her seat, and opened the magazine while enjoying delicious snacks, mochi made into a strange animal shape with a horn and stuffed with sesame seeds. Royal Oak was wearing a shirt and sleeping on the table. Her beautiful black hair was draped on her back like silk. Sugu really wanted to touch it and felt itchy. "I regret that I didn't try to impress this girl, but it's not too late now, it's better to say I've already taken action." Ark Royal was feeding the black cat Oscar, one dried fish after another. Bismarck was not as attentive as she was. He took out the cat teasing stick and started teasing the cat. It always seemed that Oscar's movements were half a beat slower than that of a normal cat. A feeling of. The pursuer holds a dart and aims at the dartboard not far away. Richelieu stood behind the bar and taught Juno how to make cocktails. Juno's learning ability was obviously insufficient and it was a bit difficult to learn. Atlanta vividly tells stories, ghost stories, in the dead of night, when the hands are out of sight, the cute little girl is walking on the mountain road, and a voice comes from far away. It is the voice of her mother, which makes everyone stunned. The audience is not only little Lolita, but also many adults. Notifications passed one by one, and when Sugu left the cafe, he held Xiao Zai in his arms, followed by Xian Xiang, and the big mackerel. Anyway, there were just many little Lolita. The light in the izakaya is not very bright, just the right warm yellow light, creating a home atmosphere. Cao Sheng had just taken off his apron, and Chumi looked around at the steaming supper placed in front of him. Atago and Maya, one on the left and one on the right, looked like they would never leave until they finished eating. Long Xiang held a large bowl of oden and ate it happily. Ruhi wanted to take a bite, so she quickly protected the bowl, "Ours." Ruhi was unhappy and wouldn't stop cooking. She simply snatched a bowl of oden and put it on Long Xiang's stove. Fuzu was sitting on her knees on the tatami, Akatsuki with a ponytail was sleeping on her knee pillow, Lei and Den were sitting next to her with their legs crossed and playing shogi. The two of them were equally skilled. After leaving the izakaya, I saw Guam and Alaska howling in the KTV, Nevada shaking the sieve cup, O'Higgins holding a tambourine in one hand, and Oklahoma sitting quietly in the corner, eating fruit platter and popcorn. Pickled pepper chicken feet, dried fruits, hold the beer and peck at it. We walked around the complex and visited the cafeteria. Yuberi was in the laboratory, and Sugu took the little Loli to the dormitory building. "Admiral, are you looking for your sister?" Maryland had just taken a shower and was wearing a large, loose t-shirt with nothing underneath. He was wiping his short hair with a towel. "She is not here with me." Sugu turned into West Virginia's room. Hood was sitting on the edge of the bed in the room, Ginger was sleeping on the bed, and the fish cake was sleeping on her legs. She was stroking the fish cake over and over again. Sugu shouted, "Muda." Xian Xiang showed a head from behind Sugu, "Anti-Muad." Xiao Zai paused and opened his mouth wide, "Buletin, Buletinda, Grandma Buletinda." The medium-long blonde hair fell on her shoulders. She was standing by the door wearing white pajamas. Her blonde hair was draped behind her. She was sitting on the bed. The two sisters were not in the same room. Are they going to sleep together today? Sugu was a little impulsive and decided to stay here tonight. "I want sisters." Ko sat at the desk doing homework, and Andrea sat next to him, eating an apple and occasionally chatting. "Glorious lingerie is so sexy." Silly monkey Big Mackerel walked in front and pushed open Daifeng's door. Sugu walked into the room and saw that Daifeng had taken off half of his clothes, just down to his wrists. He looked like he was getting ready to take a bath. He had a black lace bra, so beautiful in the northern hemisphere, it was indeed hidden, and he also had such a cute belly, which was actually bring underwear. The girl spotted him at the same time, and the two looked at each other. Daifeng was still a little confused. "Admiral." Sugu was very calm and said, "Thank you for the hospitality." "Go to hell." Daifeng kicked Sugu and unfortunately fell down. Walking on the corridor again, Sugu said, "Big Mackerel, well done." The Big Mackerel giggled and said, "Admiral, let me tell you, the stupid monkey likes to say strange things when taking a bath, and they are very outlandish." "Lucky day." "Akin, don't run away, sister will help you wipe your hair." Sugu glanced at Quincy, who was still unconscious, and then looked at New Orleans. "New Orleans is cool right now." Returning to the dormitory where he was, standing in front of the door of the Fletcher dormitory, Sugu remembered to knock on the door carefully. "The little traitor Thatcher won my heart." He saw it again. This is a real benefit. Fry was naked without any clothes on. "It's so big, I'll never tire of it," I thought. The little elf Sigsby sat on the bed. "Admiral Pervert." "Pervert," Claxton said. "Pervert," Sullivan said. Bayseye has returned to the room. She is lying on the bed, not reading the comics. The comics are in Bismarck's hands. Bismarck sat on the edge of the bed, poking Bayzeye's head and scolding him. "Dead house, fat house, lazy house, useless house." Xiaozai laughed loudly. "Admiral, you see she made Sister Meow angry again and got scolded." "I am very good and I never make Sister Meow angry." Sugu picked up Xiaozai and said, "Xiaozai is the best." Sugu had already mentioned it to Bazai, but he still felt uneasy to remind Bismarck. U-96 was holding a big jujube in both hands. She was eating like a little hamster, and all she had left was a jujube core. U-47 sat on the bed, swaying his legs, and asked Sugu what was wrong. Sugu looked at U-81, who was wearing cute dinosaur pajamas and hugging his three little wolves, and immediately panicked. The door to Leipzig's room was locked, and Sugu knocked on the door. Leipzig's voice came out, "Who is it?" "I." "Who I am." Sugu smashed the door. Leipzig said, "What are you doing, Admiral?" "I am asleep and have no clothes on." "It's best if you don't have any clothes on," Sugu said. "Okay, I'm not here to trouble you. I have something to do with you." Leipzig finally opened the door, her clothes neatly dressed. "Girl, you are too bold." Sugu really couldn't help but complain about Wichita. "Girl, do you really not know how to be shy?" Although the underwear was well worn, the upper body was not clothed except for a towel draped over the shoulders. "I simply blocked it with my hands and came out." The bald eagle Belmacan stood on the bird stand and babbled, "You rogue, what did you do in our dumpling room?" Sugu knew the weakness of the bald eagle very well. He turned off the light and said, "Dumpling, you stew this eagle." After leaving the room, Sugu was still distracted. Essex in thin pajamas, dumplings with thin skin and big filling. Finally, everyone was notified. There may be people who have not been notified. We will talk about it tomorrow. Sugu sent Xiao Loli back to the room. When he returned to his room, he saw Saratoga lying on the bed. "Guess what, am I Lexington or Saratoga?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 996. Although he worked hard all night, Sugu got up earlier than Saratoga. Of course, he was not in high spirits. At least he was not haggard, which showed that he was very powerful. Sure enough, he was still too weak as a girl. The curtains were wide open, the sun shone into the room, and Saratoga was curled up in the light blue thin quilt. Her golden hair was messy, her eyelashes were trembling slightly, her cute little face was full of satisfaction, and there was a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. The fair skin of her neck and shoulder blades was exposed, like a proud swan. When she woke up, she subconsciously stretched out her arms to see the more charming scenery. She was slouching, and the thin quilt slipped from her chest. She was not wearing anything. Even though she was in front of her favorite brother-in-law, admiral, and husband. After several years, the most intimate relationship finally happened. Saratoga was still not so generous. She wrapped her infinitely beautiful body with a thin quilt and saw Sugu standing there. In front of the huge mirror in the wardrobe, I patted my white trousers and straightened my shirt. That was the admiral uniform. Sugu pinched the black brim of his admiral hat and turned it to a suitable angle. He lowered his head slightly and looked in the mirror. Regardless of whether looking in the mirror had a beautifying effect, it felt good anyway. He was quite handsome. He turned around and said, "Does it add up?" "What are you doing in your admiral uniform?" Saratoga was still a little confused and asked, "Are you ready to go out today?" "What do you want?" When an admiral goes out to do business, he usually wears an admiral's uniform instead of a suit. Otherwise, it is more convenient and comfortable to wear casual clothes. Sugu couldn't remember how long it had been since he had worn the admiral's uniform. He encountered many problems when he first established the town hall. Now the operation of the town hall was completely on track, and there were basically no problems. "It's okay," Sugu said, "didn't I say we would take a group photo today?" "Oh," Saratoga responded, non-committal. "Get up soon," Sugu said. He picked up the clothes Saratoga had placed on the chair beside the bed and threw them on her. "Brother-in-law, help me put it on." Saratoga hugged the clothes, acting like a spoiled brat. Although it feels sad to think about it carefully, it is obviously a wedding ship, but this is her first time, and I don't know how many years later it is than Lexington, Akagi, and others. "You can make enough food and clothing by yourself," Sugu said bluntly. "Just eat them up and wipe them clean and forget about it," Saratoga sneered. "Man." Sugu pinched Saratoga's cheek in a funny way and said, okay, I'll help you put it on." Helping the little Lolita get dressed does not count. As a man with 20 marriage ships, he has more wedding ships than the president of the club. "You are all my wings." Sugu couldn't remember how many times this was, but he helped quickly anyway. Saratoga got dressed, wearing a cute one-shoulder dress, and sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the girl. Now that she was a woman, the greenness in her body seemed to have faded a lot. Saratoga stood in front of the mirror, turned around, and tugged at the hem of her skirt. She found Sugu looking at her, and asked, "Brother-in-law, what are you looking at?" Sugu said, "It feels like Jia has grown up all of a sudden." "Are you talking about this?" Saratoga lowered her head, put her hands on her towering chest, touched the ruffles on her shoulders, and murmured to herself, "It seems a little bigger, and the clothes feel a little tight." Sugu felt helpless and his shoulders slumped. "Even if you rub it more, it will make it bigger, but it won't work that quickly." Saratoga looked in the mirror and muttered. Of course Sugu knows what words can easily make girls angry, but it doesn't matter to Saratoga. He likes to bully Saratoga. "Don't look at it, Jia, if you are older, you will be smaller. No matter what, you will never be able to catch up with Helena, Prince of Wales, Fusang, and the others are not on the same level." Saratoga puffed up her face, walked up to Sugu, and pulled his face into a pie shape. After some fighting, the two people left the room and walked down the corridor. The first people to return to the guardhouse were that their room was on the same floor as Sugu's room. With medium-long blue hair draped over her shoulders, Prince Eugen had just closed the door. She was stunned for a moment when she saw Saratoga holding Sugu's wrist. It was such an incredible scene. She didn't know if it was the admiral who pushed Jia or someone else. Gaga pushed the admiral. "Good morning, Prince Eugen." Saratoga wished that everyone in the garrison knew that she had come out of Sugu's room and that she was now a real wedding ship. Arriving at the cafeteria, Sugu and Saratoga sat across from Lexington. Lexington put down the sandwich and said jokingly, "1 day, 2 days, can Gaga return your brother-in-law to your sister?" "No, mine." Saratoga hugged Sugu. "Haha, are you envious, sister?" "I'm not envious." Lexington was a little devil. No, she was a big devil. She raised her head and thought for a moment, "Your brother-in-law and I have been together for almost 4 years. I don't remember how many nights we were together, at least once 100 days, 200 days. And I am the eldest lady. I have agreed to have 1 day every week, but Gaga doesn't have it." Saratoga's expression was uncertain, and she stepped on Sugu. "I want it too." After making an appointment at 9 o'clock, after breakfast, everyone in the town hall gradually gathered on the grass next to the playground. It was still midsummer in August, and the weather was still terribly hot. The direct sunlight made it uncomfortable, and the pier was naturally not suitable. In the end, I chose to stay next to the dormitory building, under the shade of the tallest magnolia tree in the garrison. Mutsu was wearing a yukata and had a tassel in her hair. She was well dressed today. Yuxian was wearing a high-cut cheongsam. She still had the temperament of a married woman. The sadness that once surrounded her body. After returning to the governor's house, there were admirals and partners. The appearance of Changchun represented the rise of New China. It was a rare occurrence. Since she became a married woman, the rear of the ship completely disappeared, which made people feel sad and relieved. Tennessee was casual and dressed in her usual neutral attire. Bizai was completely hopeless. She sat on the guardrail of the flower bed surrounding the magnolia tree and read comics, never letting go of any time. Bismarck stood beside her, holding Oscar, the black cat. Since it is a group photo, no member of the town government can be missing. It wasn't the first time to take a group photo. We had done so before on Children's Day, but it was just the first time for everyone in the town hall to take a group photo. Leipzig was quite experienced. She was about to direct the little girls to stand in a row, but hesitated. If there are only a few people who can easily take a group photo, but when the number of people exceeds 100 and approaches 200, the problem becomes bigger. Leipzig said to himself, "In the first row of submarines, gun submarines, and destroyers, are you standing or sitting? The second row is standing or sitting. The row of light cruisers must be staggered, the third row of heavy cruisers and light aircraft carriers, and the last row of battleships. Advisor Su, are they arranged by ship type?" "No, it definitely won't work by ship type," Leipzig said. "Fletcher is a destroyer, but she is taller than most destroyers. There are also Fubuki and Phelps. Among the light cruisers, Ningai and Hepinghai are taller than everyone else. They're all a little shorter." Sugu said, "Xiao Zai and Xiao Luo battleship, but Xiao Loli." Leipzig said, "Light aircraft carrier Ryasei." Sugu said, "The Zeppelin light aircraft carrier, seems to be fine." Leipzig said, "Is Helena really a light cruiser?" "I am a light cruiser." Helena crossed her arms, supporting her plump bust, which became more and more prominent. Many people turned pale and looked away. Leipzig's lips twitched. "What's the big deal? It's drooping badly." Helena immediately grabbed Leipzig's collar and said angrily, "Leipzig Grandet, say it again." "I won't tell." Leipzig is a man who knows the current affairs. "Teardrop shape," Helena emphasized, "it's a teardrop shape." "Helena, so many people are looking at you, please be careful." Sugu put his arm around Helena's shoulders. "Don't worry, I can help you testify." It was completely counterproductive. I don't know how many eyes looked over, how many ears pricked up. Helena pushed Sugu away, she still had some shame. Returning to the topic, Leipzig said, the main purpose is to take a group photo as a souvenir, not to display products, and there is no need to arrange by ship type. Everyone in the garrison is one family, and there is no need to divide them by nationality. The tall ones stand back, and the short ones go forward. Isn't it easy to stand at the front? Sugu said, easy. Is it really easy? Leipzig asked, subconsciously seeing a white-haired Lolita and a fake Lolita. It's a huge problem, okay. Who dares to put Veneto in the first row? 381 guns are not a vegetarian, especially now that they have grown and become stronger, and the garrison cannot find a single opponent. If she is arranged in the back, it would be really difficult given her height. How about finding a high stool for her? No, no, my sensitive heart cannot tolerate any difference in treatment. Veneto was holding the coffee, and she noticed that Leipzig was quietly looking at her, glancing at her from time to time, and she was really a little tired. Veneto looked at Rome. The girl with dark green short hair was actually not very tall. She was about the same height as South Dakota. She was nothing in front of the tall Richelieu, Bismarck, Prince of Wales and others. She was so much better than him. Many, as well as Lord Ossus and posterior curvature. Sister, why do you think of returning to your original state? After all, it's better to return to our original appearance when taking group photos. Veneto looked again at standing side by side with Washington. She was a tall lady with long white hair, a plump upper body, a slender and strong waist. Her long sexy legs were wrapped in jeans, and her whole body was filled with wild charm. She would betray a good friend if he told her to. The world is getting worse and people's hearts are not as good as they used to be. Leipzig said, how to arrange it? Just sort it out casually. Missouri did not participate in the speech. She stood with the company, leaning on the concrete guardrail on one side, laughing and joking. Let's arrange them according to breast size, A cup is in the first row, B cup is in the second row, and so on. Missouri noticed Veneto's sight, she was really unintentional. Speaking of which, can one take a photo with so many people? It's definitely not clear. How about we separate? There's no point in separating. Sugu was still discussing, and 20 minutes and nearly half an hour passed. Yamashiro fanned himself with a folding fan, while Fuzu stood quietly. What are Kinyagaza looking at? Kinyagaza didn't answer. She closed the book and showed the cover to her sister Aoba. It turned out to be Daifeng's latest book, which had just been published not long ago. There was a character in it who was herself. She had been begging for a long time before she agreed to make a guest appearance. Aoba asked, "How is it?" "It's wonderful." Daifeng was sitting next to her, twirling her red ponytail with her fingers. Although she was looking at the sky, Kinyagaza assured her that she was listening to the two of them with her ears straightened up. Even if there were many things she wanted to complain about, she should forget it. She is very sensitive. Of course, the genius of the beautiful girl writer is not in vain, and her flaws are not covered up. "Let me take a look." Kinyi wanted to grab it. Kinyagaza hugged the book. "I won't give it to you." "Kinyagaza, you are amazing." Aoba said some cruel words, but Kinyagaza was very determined. He wanted to pick up a novel or magazine to kill time but was too lazy to move. He complained, "It hasn't started yet." "Hasn't it started yet?" Alaska lost patience. "Guam, I'll go back to the room and take a rest. Call me when you're ready and come down immediately." Alaska was the leader, and the others expressed that they also wanted to go back to their rooms and take a rest. "Don't be so anxious, hurry up, wait a moment," Leipzig shouted. Alaska could only stop, and so did everyone else. The little loli is the most patient. The Legion wanted to take out his snare drum, but was afraid of being scolded for playing the drum too loudly. Mahan took out his motorcycle Alfred and circled the crowd. Z17 and Z18 were fighting each other. Those who knew they were sisters, but those who didn't knew thought they were enemies. They beat each other so fiercely and mercilessly. The little princess was wearing a skirt. Joan of Arc prepared it for her in the morning. It was not the shorts that she usually likes to wear to facilitate sports, but it did not prevent her from walking to Lafayette's side. Lafayette's outfit was really cool, with chic short hair, sleeveless midriff-bearing tank top paired with hot pants. Lafayette, let's play that one. I saw Lafayette bending down and supporting his knees with both hands. Fan Huan was a little far away from her. He jumped on the spot, put his hands on Lafayette's back during a run-in, spread his legs, crossed over Lafayette's head, and stood still. With hands spread wide and head held high, it was a perfect performance. This time it was Kong Huan's turn again. She bent down and her long white hair hung down, almost falling to the ground. Lafayette warmed up a bit, then put one hand on Nguyen Xiang's back during a run-up and passed her, making her performance even more outstanding. Goat jumping game, or horse vaulting, was not enjoyable after two people played it, so they found Cushing, Lan, Big Mackerel, Claxton, and many others. Among them, Xiao Zai did not participate. She did not want to move and only saw them scissoring. The stone cloth determines who is first, and then they line up in a row. The winner jumps over everyone from back to front, and then bends down at the head of the row. Rodney was jealous, but she was a young lady. Nelson patted her head and indicated with his eyes that she would participate. No problem. So be it. After all the fuss, Sugu finally made the decision. It was basically based on height, but there was no hard requirement. Everyone could stand however they wanted. They had to stand first and then adjust. Thinking about it again, you don't actually need to stand neatly. You can sit or stand, as long as everyone is together. Anyway, the photo shoot finally started. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 997. Utopia, Raffi, Claxton, Cushing, don't play anymore, come back. Seeing the little lowly playing with the jumping goat, jumping farther and farther from the big magnolia tree to the door of the dormitory cafeteria, Leipzig shouted loudly. Life not only includes afternoon tea, but also morning tea. Many British people filled the pavilion. Of course, the place to have some snacks is our Akagya. She is sitting at the stone table, one cranberry scone after another. Daifeng is here too, so it's actually not a big deal. After all, the foodie girl is not as shameless as Akagya, mainly because of the invitation from Buobo. Stop eating, let's start. After finally discussing and deciding how to take a group photo, Sugu walked outside the pavilion and picked up the young girl M1. 3 women perform a play, and the noise produced by 2 women is equal to 1,000 ducks. Is this a wet market? It's even better than the wet market in Chuangziu. Leipzig wanted to find a loudspeaker and turn it up to the maximum volume. She shouted at the top of her lungs, "Stop talking, everyone, stand ready to take pictures." There were still people talking, they were the majority. At least someone heard Leipzig's words. Ziwa, he asked, how to stand. Leipzig looked at Sugu, and then at the large open space next to the big magnolia tree. It was spacious, and only the little bits of sunlight passed through the dense canopy above her head, leaving patches of light on the concrete floor. That was it. She walked over and stamped her feet. Everything when people come here, the little girl stands in front and the battleship stands behind. Wearing short sleeves, a short skirt, little boots, and cat ear headphones on his head, Xiao Zai stands out from the crowd. Let's go, the pursuer reminded the 100-eyed giant. Z28 put the book in his pocket and patted his pants. Z24 was sleepy and drowsy, walking unsteadily. Veneto put away the coffee cup. There were so many people walking around. It would be terrible if he accidentally touched it and spilled the coffee. Roma followed Veneto. To be honest, she was a little confused. She was not the ship girl of the governor's house. She was just here to play, so she also wanted to take part in the group photo. Her pace became slower and slower, until Andrea pushed her from behind and said, "Roma, go faster," and she quickly quickened her pace. When Enterprise saw Rome, she was sure that the poor girl had fallen and couldn't leave. There is a rumor among admirals and ship girls that they should never visit that garrison. Why can that garrison become the #1 garrison in the world? Once a ship girl is there, there is no way to escape. There is magic there, and the admiral will 100% save the ship. Just like in a real army, with the sound of a bell, everyone got up from their sleep, quickly got dressed and ran to the playground to gather, lining up neatly and standing upright, which everyone in the garrison couldn't do. As a ship girl, although the number of military personnel is small, there are still 2 military trainings and military exercises a month. They simulate an attack on the garrison and prepare for a counterattack, and simulate an attack on a nearby city to prepare for an attack. Everyone has the most basic qualities and will not be in a mess. After a lot of fiddling, I stood up decently, at least I had a prototype. It's just a group photo, there's not much emphasis on it, everyone is free to do it. U-47 sat cross-legged on the ground with his hands clasped together like a little monk. She thought again, maybe it was the bull of Scapa-Flow. Moo. Moo. Super handsome. U-505 is wearing diving goggles. U-96 eats apples, and the super cute sawfish hairpin must be placed in a conspicuous place. Otto, Berg, and Friedrich tucked one into their clothes and held one in each hand. U-81 tried its best. Mahan and Cushing stood side by side. Where were Sigsbee, Sullivan, Thatcher, and Claxton? Fletcher looked around and finally found the 4 sisters. Engels and Tashkent stood together, Kirov behind them. Kirov's photography level is higher than that of Leipzig, but she doesn't like the bustle. She prefers to be alone with her camera and take pictures of lighthouses in the sunset, lonely whale hunting, curling thunderclouds with faint electric light, and cold cities, so she still communicates with her. Give it to Leipzig. The 2 little supply jam Suk Bader and Odin are never separated. Sukov was wearing a small dress. She stood out among the crowd of little Lolita, not because of her height, but mainly because of her plump bust. No one could match her, and even many light cruisers and heavy cruisers were inferior to her. When she is not running around like a crazy woman, she dreams of being a real little princess. There is only one white-skinned god of war, Waklan, who disappears from everyone, a Karen. What does AV mean? Little angel Kamichia hugged her sister Aviel from behind, pulled off her clothes, and saw the letters on her chest. I heard the Admiral's expression was weird when he talked about AV. Bugolini ate wave candy and showed full support, it seems to be some strange little movie. The big Lolita Antonio watches Kamichia bully his sister. Aviel, let me write the word positive on your chest. Kamichia took out an oil-based pen from nowhere. Kamichia, Veneto couldn't stand in the back because of her height. She definitely didn't want to stand in the first row. She chose to stand at the end of the second row. Roma followed her. Andrea and Ko were standing beside her. Behind him, he stood down after being looked at coldly. I'll spare you for now. Carmichael is really a hopeless sister. Fubuki is the clinging sister. She hugs her sister Shirayuki and looks like a perverted goldfish. Kagaya, my Kagaya. Ayanami didn't tie her ponytail today, and Ayanami had a smile on her lips. Z17, Z18, please stop arguing and come here. Z1 is the eldest sister of everyone in the Z series. She has become a girl since she grew up. Unfortunately, her figure is far inferior to that of Z31, and her height seems not as good as Z16. Z31 is next to her, her chest bulging. Z16 brushed his short blonde hair. Z24 patted his face and tried to wake himself up. Z28 is like a serious squad leader. Our poor Z21. Who I am? Where am I? With her eyes open, she slipped in and out of the crowd until Richelieu lifted her up. Although Joan of Arc is a light cruiser, she is tall and does not look out of place standing next to Richelieu. By the way, she was not wearing a blue cloth and white skirt today, and she was holding a handkerchief on her head, like a village girl. With long golden wavy hair and a one-shoulder lantern-sleeved dress revealing round and smooth shoulders, she is a fashionable girl. A group of fishery boats stood together. Ninghai and Pinghai looked like twins. Except for one place, Chongqing was wearing a green cheongsam, and Yuxian stood in front of Chongqun, with his hands on Chongqun's shoulders. Take pictures, Chongqun liked Yuxian's gestures of intimacy very much. The admiral also liked Yuxian's gestures of hugging him and stroking his hair. Trust is not standing with Firefly, she is Hibiki today. Xiaoxiang and Thunder sisters are standing side by side, with their fingers intertwined. Suifeng lowered her head. She didn't know where it would be better to stand alone. A pair of hands held her up, and only Shinano was not afraid of auspiciousness, a safe home, and no fear of luck. It was raining when she went out, and she would lose every time she gambled. This was daily life, and she was already used to it. Long Xiang put his hands on his hips. This is our place. Amethyst was dressed carefully, but she looked like a down-and-out young lady. It was obvious that Sugu had never treated her badly. Among the three sisters, Javelin, Queen of Heaven, and Blackback Jackal, only one, Blackback Jackal, has not grown and is the smallest. Somerez's face was expressionless, but the legion next to her was an energetic little loli. Venus is a dignified little lady, but she is actually pink and black. Although she is not full of bad intentions, she is quite sinister. M1 lowered his head and looked at the sandals, his cute toes curled up. Acasta and Zeal stood straight. They were the disciplinary committee members of the class. Firefly looked at Trust with resentment. You stand on the bridge and look at the scenery, and the people watching the scenery are looking at you upstairs. She doesn't know that Admiral Hipper is staring at her eagerly at this time. If it weren't for her sister, Prince Eugen, watching, he might take action on the spur of the moment. Has such a person really served as a gendarmerie captain before? Keelan raised his hand, holding a burning torch. Helena scolded Raffi, give me the bat. Lafayette quickly put down the baseball bat. Where did you get the bat from? Helena's stretched out hand did not put down, so Lafayette could only hand the baseball bat to Helena's hand honestly, and the finger tiger, take it off together. Helena paused, forget it. Phelps clasped his hands behind his back, standing tall and graceful. The kitchen goddess took a nap. She was busy for a long time yesterday. The big mackerel wrapped its arms around the archerfish's neck, stared at the archerfish's chest, and subconsciously bit its lip. Although it is a battle cruiser, as a cultivator, it is pocket-sized, Deutschland, sheer with a torpedo in his mouth, and spy with bare ears, three little Lolita. Jade, enterprising, Edinburgh and Belfast, they are similar in height, Lincien is a little shorter than them. O'Higgins is full of exotic style. Her wheat-colored skin and tall figure are most suitable for dancer costumes. Sister, don't pull my tail. Santiago covered his butt. Atlanta rubbed her hands and looked at her sister with thick and fluffy green curly hair. She said, the Admiral can touch it, but I can't. No one is allowed to touch. Santiago felt annoyed. The perverted Admiral liked to pull his own tail. He was very shy, especially since he always had to stroke it. He felt a little sensitive. He would never make a sound like a cat meowing. San Juan said, Sister, please stop arguing. Atlanta's character jumped out of character. I suddenly remembered that San Juan has paid so much for the Admiral, like a little wife. The admiral is not married to San Juan yet. He is really a scumbag and a heartless man. San Juan decided not to speak, as any words he spoke would lead to mistakes. Juno came to the door himself. What's so good about Admiral? Atlanta said, Juno is so arrogant. The four cat-eared sisters stand together. San Juan is the tallest, followed by Atlanta, then San Diego, and Juno is the shortest. Northampton and Houston, they are obviously sisters and rarely get together. A cute girl in New Orleans wearing a wide-brimmed hat and a pure white skirt. No promises, no rings. Quincy has a wedding dress and ovo. Kingy glanced at Quincy secretly, thinking about something, with evil intentions. Kinyagaza was wearing a short skirt, a dark green vest, and a silver necklace. What a beautiful necklace, so white, so big and bright. I really want to touch it. I can't take my eyes away. I'm completely attracted to it. Takao, Atago, Maya, and Chumi, the loving sisters, are wearing the same clothes and skirts. What a beautiful scenery. Who dares to laugh at the whole family? Megama, Mikuma, Suzuya, and Kumino are the best. Wichita puffed out her chest proudly. She must be the next wedding ship. Baltimore stood next to Wichita, feeling like she was getting a little thinner. Pensacola, Salt Lake City, York, Exeter, they were good friends. Kent, wearing a royal blue Victorian dress, was holding a big, ferocious tiger, looking permanently in tears, while London had his arms around her neck. Their cousins. The short-haired and pretty Fei Ying put on women's clothing, a skirt, and a fringed hairpin on her head. It was specially prepared for her by her sister Falcon. Otherwise, she would have to be dressed like a tomboy. The contrast between cuteness and cuteness is really cute. Falcon is also a cute girl. She smiled lightly and listened to her sister's chirping. Colossus was unexpectedly quiet and didn't chatter. She looked around, but she didn't feel anything at all. It turned out that there were so many people in the garrison. Even counting those ship girls who have retired and retired admirals, the number of ship girls in Chuangziu Academy is completely incomparable. Ruhi couldn't help complaining about Xianghe's demure look, and asked him to look at the occasion. Gagabi, don't drink. You still have enough to eat, so don't eat. I won't drink any more. Kagami put the wine bottle on his waist. And the last 3 pieces. Akaga slurred as he ate the snacks, then put another piece of snacks into his mouth. The foodie girl Daifeng said, give me a piece and I will help you eat. No one can snatch food from Akaga's hands, including the admiral. The charming 9-tailed fox even ate the admiral, eating him clean, at night. Bald Eagle Bear Macon stood chattering on Essex's shoulder. Dumpling Essex said, Bell, shut up. CV-16 said, Mr. Bell, please stop talking. It's really noisy. Arc Royal straightened her long orange hair. Bouletin Tuo nodded. She was very satisfied with the life she had been having since joining the town government. Zeppelin's outfit is quite tasteful. Mutsu is in full bloom, and Nagato is dressed sharply and handsomely. Ise and Hinata were hopeless. They were still dressed in colorful and rustic clothes. The sharp contrast with Mutsu was like execution. Yamashiro played with folding fans, fuzu, balls, only balls. Scharnhorst also wore a high-cut cheongsam, with the laces of her lace-up underwear exposed. Nevada, Alaska, and Guam murmured, and Oklahoma stood aside silently. They made an agreement. One of them took out a pistol, one held up the keyboard, and the other held the guitar. Then they saw Washington holding the falling cherry axe. North Carolina held up an Indian tomahawk. For a moment, I didn't know whether the two people were cooperating with everyone or threatening. York City, Enterprise, and Bumblebee gathered together. York City hugged Enterprise, and Enterprise hugged Bumblebee. They finally looked like sisters. Their relationship seemed pretty good. Royal Oak, Don't sleep anymore. The blonde wavy-haired Guangrong pushed the black-haired girl. Royal Oak stumbled to consciousness. Gloria said, sleep standing up, Royal Oak, you are amazing. Tennessee adjusted her clothes, but she still had to pay attention to her image. California held her waist with one hand, looking surprisingly graceful. As expected, raiders are best suited for open bras, hello in the mountains and valleys. Standing among a group of battleships, Wisconsin felt pressured and his chest felt a little tight. This feeling of oppression. Maryland is sandwiched between her older sister, Colorado, and younger sister, West Virginia. She is the shortest and has the worst figure. It is not because of comparisons. Colorado is the first in the governor's house. West Virginia used to be small and pitiful, but after growing up, she changed drastically. There are not many people who can compare. Come on, she has no goods at all, no breasts and no ass. She has a straight face at this moment and feels uncomfortable. Nelson held Rodney in his arms, and his sister Rodney stood beside her tenderly, like a family of three. Lion, Vanguard, and Queen Elizabeth stood at the rear. Hindenburg, who was almost as tall as a lion, stood behind with her arms folded. Bismarck hugged Oscar and said, "Tirpitz." Basie quickly put away the comics. When his sister called his name, he had to restrain himself. The little maid counterattacks and the reputation of the head maid still wears a black and white maid uniform. It seems that there is no way to change the concept of being a maid. Hood held ginger and fish cakes, cleverly blocking a certain place. She looked at the Prince of Wales standing next to her. His long blonde hair was not tied up but draped behind his back. He was wearing a shirt, and the buttons on the chest seemed to collapse. When I go out, I really want to say, go away. The Prince of Wales caught Hood's gaze and asked, Hood, what are you looking at? Hood put aside his head, nothing. Missouri, go away, this is my position. Saratoga found Missouri standing next to her brother-in-law, and she ordered him around. There is no harm if there is no comparison. Lexington did not dare to grab his position. Xiaozai wanted his sister Bismarck, but Sugu held her in his arms forcefully. Missouri smiled funnily, okay, let me give it to you. Naturally, Missouri was not so kind. As the commander-in-chief of this group photo, Leipzig pinched her chin. At this time, she started, Gaga, why are you standing there? I can't see you. Come up one row and stand in the second row. Saratoga is indeed a bit short among the battleships. Princeton Rabbit, wearing a tall black magic hat, waved, Jaga, come to me. Saratoga was reluctant, taking 3 steps to look back, but only 1 step. Leipzig said, and South Dakota, you also stand up and line up. South Dakota doesn't have such big ideas. He can go anywhere as he pleases, and he can't stand by the admiral's side anyway. Leipzig continued, Unicorn, don't keep your head down. The unicorn held the harp and she heard it. Sirius, so you are here. Sirius felt a little bored. He was obviously very beautiful and very strong, but why was he so invisible? It seemed that he was not there in the garrison. Blucher, are you squatting? Don't squat, stand up. I didn't squat. Blucher sat on her anchor. She had an anchor with a flat head, which was just right. Leipzig shouted, Emden, remember to stand up straight when taking pictures, you can't do this. Emden was hunched over like a sickly girl. Leipzig gestured again, and she directed, Königsberg, Karlsruhe, Cologne, please move a little to the side. Tianlong, Ryuada, you move back a row and go to the 3rd row. Leipzig looked at the 2 expedition captains. In fact, they are not on expeditions now. They are in charge of the life and education of the little Lolita. Although it is a light cruiser, its figure is better than many heavy cruisers, with big breasts and a big butt. It is certainly no match for Helena. Seeing that it was almost done, Leipzig said, Yubari, click this to delay taking pictures. Yeah, Yubari was wearing a white coat and put his hands in his pockets. Go over and stand still. Leipzig said to Yubari. The camera was placed on a tripod. Leipzig looked at everyone through the lens, adjusted the distance and angle, and waved. Everyone, come closer. Laugh. Sugu hugged Xiaozai, but Xiaozai looked at her cat sister. What a strange bedfellow. It was such a sad scene. He was standing in the middle, with Lexington on his left. Lexington found that he was looking at him. Looking at herself, smiling, her lowered hand grabbed his palm and held it gently. Leipzig pressed the shutter and quickly ran to the chosen position to stand. 3, 2, 1, eggplant. Eggplant. Tianqi, someone also shouted. With a click, the flashlight came on. After nearly 4 years, it was finally completed, and everyone returned to the garrison. The scene is frozen at this moment. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 998. A few days ago, I went to the ruins of the former Toot Larry mansion. I just occasionally wanted to take a walk, but there was nothing special. The ruins of the ruins were still there. The girl went with Saratoga, and the girl asked her brother-in-law if he was nostalgic for her. She suggested that now that the town hall has money, it can be rebuilt here and everyone can move here. Sugu smiled and shook his head and rejected it. The current town hall is very good. This is where Xiaozai and I met. So good. At that time, Sugu was sitting on the steps, with his hands on the ground behind his back, leaning back, looking up at the blue sky with white clouds, and seagulls circling constantly. Return to the garrison. On this day, rolling thunderclouds slowly covered the sky with menacing force. Lightning flashed one after another, and soon weakened into residual roars. Heavy rain poured down, and the violent storm finally stopped after falling for a long time. Sugu opened the window, and the fresh air after the rain rushed into his face. All the buildings in his field of vision were soaked by the rain, the wires were dripping with water, and there were new puddles everywhere on the ground. The little lowly walked out from under the eaves. I never get tired of jumping up and down, stepping on puddles and splashing water. I slept with Xiaozai at noon. She is still sleeping. Her short pink hair is spread out on the bed. She is wearing a snow-white shirt and a dark green skirt. She is curled up with her hands clenched into small fists and crossed on her chest. She is the cutest person in the world. The record player is placed in the corner, although it has not been listened to for a long time, because Lexington cleans it every once in a while. Phelps is such a considerate little cotton jacket, and has a counter-attack and reputation, so it is not gathering dust. The copper classic water lotus horn generous and graceful. Sitting at the desk, Sugu picked up the boat in a bottle that was placed on it. It was a gift from Xiaozai on his previous birthday. In fact, the workmanship was not very good. The wooden sailboat looked a bit crude. Compared with the gifts given by many people, he always loved it. Sugu opened the drawer again. There was a pistol inside, with a caliber of 9 mm, a length of 150 mm, a weight of 0.75 kilograms, and a magazine with a capacity of 7 rounds. When I met Bismarck before, she gave him a gift, saying that no matter how powerful a person is in a fight, it is not as good as a pistol. A music box, when opened, a little metal figure danced, and sweet music suddenly sounded. Whose lipstick? Camera. Admiral. Sugu turned his head. Xiaozai was standing next to him, rubbing his eyes. His hair was messy. One of his cheeks was a little red from sleeping on the mat, and he looked dazed. What are you looking at? It's nothing. Sugu picked up Xiaozai and let her sit on his legs. Xiaozai had just woken up and felt unhappy. She recovered quickly. She picked up a ruler from the drawer and poked it around, dancing around. Sugu smiled and remembered that he had poked the ruler into Lexington's chest before. He didn't remember whether it was 10 centimeters deep. He only remembered that he had poked the Prince of Wales' chest. He was completely frightened. Helena was teardrop-shaped, and Ruhi was after one beating. His expression suddenly became strange, and he thought of Veneto. My comic book. Xiao Zai put down the ruler and picked up a comic book that she had put here before. The small house turned over twice, and Sugu looked at it. He still remembered the story he told the small house about the return of the tiger cub. There was a white tiger in Stranglethorn Valley named Bangladesh. Consultant Su, has Xiaozai ever ridden a tiger? Sichuanjiu has a zoo with several tigers and occasional circus performances, but it does not provide the service of taking intimate photos with the tigers. Xiaozai said, no. I have hugged Sister Kent's ferocious big tiger. It is so fat and chubby. Like a pig. The ferocious big tiger in Kent must be an orange cat. Sugu thought for a while and said, I know an admiral, a rich man. There is a zoo in her garrison where they keep big tigers. I dreamed of riding one there, but I never took Xiaozai there. No. Xiaozai raised his hands in protest. Admiral, I want to go. I want to ride a tiger. Sugu said, next time. Admiral likes to draw big cakes the most. Xiaozai knows this very well. She asked, when? Sugu said, it depends on your sincerity. Xiaozai turned around, hugged Sugu's face with both hands, kissed him hard on the face, and said, I'm very sincere. Sugu burst into laughter and hugged the cutest person in the world tightly. We will go in a few days, within a month, I promise within a month, I will think about it and find some reason to visit. Xiaozai nodded, I remember, if you don't keep your word, I will ignore you in the future. Good. A finely crafted dagger, I remember it was a gift from Helena. A jade carp spitting water paperweight, I really don't remember who gave it as a gift. I went out to look for everyone and bought a souvenir while traveling, a batch. It's actually here. I've been looking for it for a long time and thought I lost it. What Xiaozai found turned out to be her Bismarck nesting doll, which happened to be the one in the middle. The Admiral actually hid my cat sister. Sugu said, it's obvious that you threw your own things around and didn't know how to clean them up. Xiaozai said, that's the Admiral. When did Xiaozai learn how to beat her up? Sugu said, I want to tell Sister Miao that I don't like her anymore. Xiaozai said, no, I can't tell Sister Miao. Sugu smiled, I want it. Then I'll ignore you. Ignore it and ignore it? Xiaozai picked up something again, a Chinese knot, and she said, is the Admiral an awkward child? Sugu laughed and rubbed Xiaozai's face, feeling comfortable. Xiaozai suddenly felt depressed, and she said, Sister Miao likes Admiral the most. Sugu proudly said, I am her Admiral and husband, of course. Then there's Bazai. Xiaozai said, that damn dead house, lazy house, fat house, and useless house. I always call people dead, lazy, fat, and useless. Sugu said, look, if you read comics every day, eat too much, do nothing, and don't exercise, you will become her sooner or later when you grow up. You just became her. Xiaozai said, I don't want to become her, absolutely not, no. Sugu said, no change, no change, a small house is a small house. No change. Xiaozai lay on the desk again, resting his chin on the table. Sister Miao is the only one who likes me. It doesn't matter. Sugu said, I just like Xiaozai first. Xiaozai said in disgust, what's the use of you liking me? Sugu laughed angrily. Of course he knew that Xiaozai was just saying that he liked him very much. The wind blew into the room from the window, blowing the wind chimes hanging above the window, and the clear and sweet sound came in. Sugu took the photo album and a large stack of photos that had not yet been put into the album. In addition to taking group photos, I also took many photos at the same time. Opening the album, Sugu was going to stuff the photos into the album. Of course, a group photo wouldn't work because that one photo was too big. Sister counterattack, sister prestige. Xiaozai picked up a photo and saw Sugu standing in the middle, with his left and right hands representing counterattack and prestige respectively. They were wearing black and white maid outfits, with their hands placed dignifiedly on their aprons. Sister Mutsu. Mutsu's reputation is really bad. It would be better to say that he has no reputation at all. Everyone knows it, even the little Lolita knows it. Xiaozai snickered, naughty hooves? Sugu took the photo from Kotaku's hand and saw that in the photo she was standing on a rock by the sea. Mutsu was wearing Shiromuzan. Her clothes were rare and neatly dressed. It was not like she usually wore a yukata with her breasts folded. The slit must be very low, exposing her shoulders, and her chest is very white. The high-cut cheongsam and dress must have exposed her underwear. She lowered her head and even looked a little shy. In the photo, Sugu is standing in the middle wearing big sunglasses, with his arms folded across his chest. Washington and his sister North Carolina are leaning on him on the left and right, with only one side leaning away, holding an axe in their lowered hands. Xiaozai showed envy, this one is so handsome, I want to take a picture of it too. After stuffing all the photos into the album, Xiaozai turned the album to the first page, and Sugu thought of the past. Fall into the sea, get up from the sea and enter another world. I have no money, no identity, no friends, no relatives, no place to live, nothing. I finally found a job and settled down a little bit. Cameras and other things are quite expensive, but just relying on the salary from my part-time job is completely unrealistic. When I met San Juan, the girls' actions were touching. When I met Lexington and Saratoga, they were just doing ordinary jobs and didn't save much money at all. So many people need to live, even though they can afford it. There is really no need for a camera or luxury accessories, and I have no interest in talking. I got the first camera from Bizai and was pranked by them once. I learned about it from Bismarck much later. Look at the photos again. The house we rented before only had 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. It was too crowded for 5 people. Fletcher and his sister could not live here. There was a dormitory in Akagya. I found Firefly in the back, which accommodated 6 people. There were more and more people. Thanks to Zeppelin, thanks to her help, I got the garrison so quickly and got such a good garrison. After checking out of the rent, I went to the governor's mansion and took a few photos, of the bedroom, the living room, and a group photo of a few people in front of the house under the sunset. At the Chuangziu Naval Academy, Xiaozai stood by the lake doing scissor hands. He looked silly, as if he was a countryman entering the city. If you take a closer look, you will see that the passerby in the background is a college teacher whom I know, named Lin Di, a poor African who was originally an admiral but retired because he never delivered goods. Specially photographed, the former admiral of the governor's mansion left a heartbreaking message on the blackboard wall. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. In the end, they discovered that they were Africans. How did they fall from the big ship and artillery gang to excuse me today, would you like some rabbit? Club members, I wonder if that girl has gotten a battleship now, wish her the best. The first solo photo in admiral uniform. Pull the brim of your hat down a little. Who is this handsome guy with a tall figure and broad shoulders? As expected, a man relies on his clothes and a horse relies on his saddle. Stand on the lighthouse and have a bird's eye view of the town's castle, and take photos of it all. From a condescending perspective, the cute little loli is sleeping on the grass, with their heads next to each other in a circle. If it spreads to the black market, I don't know how much it will sell for. If it were placed in an auction house, hundreds of people would compete. One question, who took this photo? He must be the most loving gentleman in the world. Turning over the photos one by one, they are full of memories. After looking through all the photos, Sugu closed the album and put it in the drawer. Xiaozai opened another drawer and pretended to say, I know what's in this. Consultant Su, what's there? Ring, Xiaozai said. Lots and lots of rings. Sugu said, you guys usually look through my things. No, Xiaozai said, not wanting to betray her friends. Fantasy likes to rummage the most, and Cushing. Sugu naturally didn't mind. He smiled, then took out an iron box from the drawer and opened the lid. There were indeed many rings inside. Which one is the Lexington ring, which one is the Saratoga ring? Helena's ring is the most ordinary, and the Prince of Wales's ring has a small diamond on it, Sugu remembers clearly, otherwise, when the girl asks, something will happen if she can't answer. She had seen too many things, so Xiaozai found a platinum ring and said, this is Sister Miao's ring. Sugu said, it's not her ring, it's my ring, just a pair with her. Oh, Xiaozai nodded, and she asked curiously, why doesn't the Admiral wear a ring? In the past, everyone only had a vow ring, a diamond ring for marriage proposal, which was inconvenient to wear on the hand. Now there are simple matching rings that can be worn on the finger every day. No, you can't wear it. No matter whose ring you wear, other people will definitely be dissatisfied. Sugu stopped after saying a few words, I tell you, you don't understand. Xiaozai said, just put them all on your hands. How do you wear so many rings? Xiaozai said, Admiral is a big pervert, 20 wedding ships. Sugu said, and it can only be worn with the ring finger of the left hand. I know, I know. Xiaozai raised his hand and said seriously, the blood vessel on the ring finger of the left hand directly leads to the heart. On the finger closest to the heart, a diamond ring is worn to symbolize love. Love is closer to the heart. You still remember? Sugu remembered that he almost had an accident with Lexington before, so he might have missed it. Xiaozai took out the small red box from the drawer, which contained the vow ring. Imagine that they often secretly take your ring, or should I tell them to wear it on the ring finger of their left hand? They are a bunch of idiots. Consultant Su, Xiaozai didn't wear it secretly. No, Xiaozai replied. Consultant Su, really not? Does Xiaozai want it? Sugu said, it belongs to our agreement. Xiaozai leaned on Sugu, holding the oath ring tightly in his palm, with a serious expression and trembling eyelashes. In the middle of summer, the sky is blue and transparent, and there is a beautiful rainbow in the sky. A ray of sunlight slants into the room, illuminating the dark solid wood floor with beautiful wood grain. Someone is yelling, and I don't know which little guy. They were making trouble again. Sounds came from the window, and the chirping of cicadas came in, squeaking, squeaking, squeaking dash. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 1001. Night falls. Walking through the beautiful garden, the new admiral's name is Fang Ming. In fact, he is not a new admiral. He has been in the garrison for a year, but his ship girl has nothing except the heavy cruiser she built at the beginning. There is no difference between the new admiral and the new admiral. He received an invitation before and rushed to the destination today. Amin, you're here. Fang Ming saw the admiral who invited him standing in front of the tall building, waiting for him. Coming, Fang Ming replied. Do you know where this place is? The behemoth in the admiral world. Would you like some rabbits today? No one in the club can shake it. Every member is stubborn and will not hesitate to join the gendarmerie once a week. The second-ranked club does not have a formal. It is clear that no one wants to stay here, but it is so huge, which highlights the ruthlessness of reality. As an admiral, how could he not know? Fang Ming nodded, I know. Failure once or twice does not mean anything. Even failure 10 or 20 times is not a problem. It is common for a new admiral to rush to the garrison with a destroyer and a battleship and an aircraft carrier for a year. In the past, when societies and clubs were just established, they were not sensible. If they were not sensible, they would suffer big losses. Newcomers represent unlimited possibilities. We once invited a newcomer admiral who only had a light cruiser to join the townhouse. From then on, we saw him bringing a different ship girl to the gathering at every gathering. It was Alaska, Ark Royal, and Hinata. I don't know how many people were secretly sad and crying, but I, the inviter, was also criticized and almost expelled from the team along with him. Although we can't make a final conclusion before retirement or decommissioning, we look old at the age of 3, and a year of inspection and observation is almost enough. Accidents rarely occur. Even if an accident occurs, there is nothing we can do. It can only be said that God's will is unpredictable. The initial construction of a heavy cruiser, you were not originally under our consideration. With more than 20 sorties a year, more than 20 construction times, and not a single destroyer, we can be sure that you are one of our own. Welcome to join us, to our African club. Fang Ming hugged each other, and his shoulders suddenly dropped. He smiled and knelt on the ground, covering his face with his hands and sobbing. He thought that when he walked out of the academy in high spirits, he gradually became discouraged. After receiving that cursed invitation, this time is it your future? No, it's not the future, it has become reality. He feels sad. Why is this world so unfair? What went wrong? Tears flashed in the corners of Fang Ming's eyes. The admiral had seen this kind of situation many times. When he saw him, he said, "Don't cry, don't let the tears flow. Those European dogs will laugh." Yeah, Fang Ming wiped away his tears and became more insistent. There was a lot of noise in the hall. There is a new battleship in the Huajiao branch. I heard that he just woke up and doesn't understand anything. We can give it a try. That's it, that's it. We are too anxious. When others see us, they are afraid. From then on, it becomes a vicious cycle. Zigwa, I tried on women's clothing a few days ago, but it was useless. I didn't have a battleship at all, but I gained something else. I feel like I've awakened something. I heard a saying that at 3/4 of noon, one foot wears a white sock and the other foot wears a black sock and walks around the garrison. If you want a ship girl, you can prepare a model of a warship and take it off in the early morning. Take off your shirt and start praying, dance a hula dance at 8 o'clock, and finish at 9 o'clock. Build on time at 9 o'clock at 1 o'clock, and 100% build the ship girl you want. Impossible, Zigwa, you wouldn't believe such ridiculous rumors. It's never wrong to give it a try. Let me be blunt, I've tried it and it doesn't work. There must be something wrong with you. It's useless, we are destined to be Africans. It has been 15 years since the admiral became the admiral, and he still does not have a battleship. Although he relies on his extraordinary wisdom and a group of destroyers and lightships, the cruiser has been protecting the safety of a sea area without any problems so far. Enough is enough is really enough. Orange, we can't give up yet. Ah, watermelon, there is only darkness in my eyes. A true warrior dares to face the bleak life and the dripping blood. Fang Ming was sitting on the sofa by the floor-to-ceiling window eating. The various foods on the plate were piled high. In fact, he was not discouraged yet. He would not just fall down and sink. No matter what, he would climb to that area no matter what. Mainland, he looked around the spacious hall, each person, me, I will not become a piece of mud like you, I can still fly. Amen. There was another soft call. Fang Ming looked up and saw a woman with medium-long black hair standing next to him. He couldn't help but shout out in surprise, "Senior! Thank you for remembering me." Fang Ming said, "How could I forget my senior sister? I thanked my senior sister for her help when I was in the academy. It's not a big deal, admirals just want to be friendly and help each other. Senior, why are you here? Fang Ming had just spoken. He thought about it. What other reason could there be for a person to appear here and at this party? The senior sister smiled. You still can't control your mouth. Fang Ming lowered his head. I'm sorry. It's okay, I've long been used to it. Senior sister pursed her lips and said, looks like I have to tell you something. Thanks to my senior sister for teaching me before. The senior sister smiled slightly. She had to teach newcomers again today. She was holding a red wine glass with a deep look in her eyes. Everyone gathers here mainly to exchange experiences, rather than metaphysics. Why not exchange experiences with those Europeans? They didn't want to see us. They kept saying, I don't know why. It was built. As soon as it was built, they just said a few words and invited her to come to our garrison, and she came. You ask me, I don't know. You know, everyone went out in the morning and brought people back in the afternoon. Other than that, I didn't do anything. We don't want to see them yet. Their ugly faces are really disgusting. Actually, we don't want to be here at all. We just have no choice but to stick together to keep warm. If you build a capital ship, everyone will be very happy, because your success means that everyone also has hope. That's weird, you. Ming, I told you. There are no resources to supply and repair the ship, girl. Let's help together. There is no money to build the garrison, no matter how hard you say it, as long as you can get it, you won't hesitate. The attack from the deep-sea ship girl on the townhouse is powerless. Don't worry, the large force is sailing over. But who wants to build a capital ship? I'm sorry, we don't have a brother like you. Times come and go. If you really build a capital ship, please leave quietly. Don't invite me to participate next time. Everyone knows what's going on. Just be a good person so that we can meet each other in the future. The senior sister said a lot, and Fang Ming listened silently. The senior sister suddenly said, Ming, do you know who our biggest enemy is? You mean? Yes, that's him, Sugu. Senior sister said, that damn admiral, he must have taken away all his luck in the next life, and the next life. As an admiral, it is okay not to know who the governor is, but not knowing the name of that legendary admiral is too much. Fang Ming thought to himself that the number of ship girls in the garrison now exceeds 200. The two former instructors of the academy, Zeppelin and Akage, were all taken away. It seems that Akage was his ship girl before, and the legendary ship girl Enterprise had also been there long ago. It was taken away. It seems that it has recently become a wedding ship. There are more than 50 people on the wedding ship. That was the information from a year ago. Dead seal. Day. Him. As soon as Sugu was mentioned, many people gathered around, each one getting more excited than the other. It seemed that the crime committed by a certain person was difficult to describe. That guy, last time we had a meeting, he brought the lion over, and my eyes almost went blind. I only found out last year why the painter I liked when I was still studying in the academy, a painter who only painted Bismarck books, suddenly stopped painting. It turned out to be his wife Tirpitz. What do you mean by that? You know, I heard recently that the talented beautiful girl writer who wrote many books turned out to be his ship girl Teiho, and now she is a wedding ship living a happy life. No wonder the recent books, it's all a boring plot. It was obviously not like this before. How did you feel at that time? It's not an exaggeration to say that you were heartbroken. I don't know who was the first to speak, sneering. What's there to be proud of? So many wedding ships will drain him dry sooner or later. Is Tian Shura field fun? If a little girl dares to get married, sooner or later she will be locked up by the gendarmerie and whipped with a whip dipped in salt water. I bring a battleship with me to every gathering. I haven't seen the same thing for a year. I'm just jealous. The first person surrendered. He really couldn't say such things against his will. He was seen kneeling on the ground, his voice was crying, I'm envious, I'm really envious. I'm super envious. Why don't I have one? I want it too. Please, give me one too. Give me a little warmth. From then on it got out of hand. I heard from the owner of a bridal shop in Chuangzhou that he recently went to get an engagement dress again. It seems that the indomitable man with a very vicious mouth has been trained by him and is ready for marriage. According to statistics, I confirm that there are 67 weddings. It is said that everyone in the town will be married within the third 5-year plan. I also want Missouri, as well as companies, to help the town government find ship girls. The legendary Big Bath House, where people from the garrison are bathing together. Wandering ship girls and female admirals don't mind visiting it. Men, go away. Sisters, I also want sisters. I heard there are 3 and 4 sisters. For a time, mourning flooded the land, and Fang Ming couldn't help but join in and feel the same way. At the same time, in the townhouse far away from here, the man sneezed and rubbed his nose. Admiral, have you caught a cold? The woman sleeping next to the man sat up. She had long black hair and her bust was absolutely world-class. It's okay, I don't have a cold. I guess someone is talking about me. Well, Fuzu, it's still early, let's do it again. Admiral, don't be ridiculous. Fuzu is indeed the king of the ball. It feels really good and I can't put it down every time. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 1002. At first I looked like a dog when I wanted to breed, but now I feel ugly after masturbating. It is said that everyone has a sage time. When the sage time comes, the body and mind will enter a state of no desire and desire, and the spiritual mind will reach a state of selflessness. Even a goddess is nothing more than that. No matter what, as a kind of emotional animal, girls prefer warm embraces and gentle caresses. It is absolutely forbidden to lean on the bedside and light a cigarette when the clouds and rain are resting. Marrying Fuzu shortly after marrying Mutsu, earlier than Wichita, Dumpling Essex, Raiders, Glory, etc., she likes Yamato Nades Hiko, who is as gentle as water, and more importantly, that figure is really charming. Hard to help myself. After hard work, Sugu was very tired. He did not fall asleep deeply. He hugged Fuzang and stroked her silky black hair, remembering what happened several years ago. Fuzang pressed her face against Sugu's chest, her heart filled with happiness, almost overflowing, but unfortunately it only lasted a few minutes. Fuzu too. I didn't understand it before, I just occasionally listened to Mutsu's talk, and my sister Yamashiro said a few words. I haven't read Beizai's book. It's been several years since I was married, and Sugu likes to bully people the most. The more you do, the more the shyer you are, the more you like to say embarrassing words in your ear. Fuzang knows a little bit about the strange meanings of those words. She whispered, no. Sugu suddenly thought of something, and he laughed all of a sudden. Fuzang asked, what are you laughing at, Admiral? Sugu said, Fuzu's luck is still so bad. Unfortunately Fuzu is used to it, but happiness comes from comparison. There are Shinano, Hood, Teiho, Mutsu, etc., and he is doing well. Just now. Sugu said in Fuzang's ear, I am quite lucky. With my luck. Her pretty face turned red for a moment, and she closed her legs tightly together. Fuzu said, the Admiral is really a gangster and a big pervert. You have to ask yourself. Sugu smiled, it's a pity that it's too late for Fuzang to regret it now. One hand passed through the gap between Fuzang's graceful neck and the bed, another hand went around her shoulders, and kissed her hair. The fragrance of the hair came over at this moment, and the smell of shampoo, Sugu, it started again, bullying Fuzang. It feels like Fuzang is a little bigger there, a lot bigger. It's obvious that she doesn't have a child, and then she enters the lactation period. Fuzang is shy, and often can't stand Sugu's shamelessness. The two of them are an old married couple, no matter what. Even so, Fuzang, the usually gentle and generous sister, became like a little girl. Her voice was as thin as a mosquito, and Sugu couldn't hear her clearly. Consultant Su, how big is Fuzang's bust? Have no idea. Every ship girl must have a physical examination when growing up, joining or returning to the garrison. As a ship girl, there is nothing wrong with her health. The main thing is that everyone who likes to tease must have a physical examination, so as to avoid being pretended to be a pig and eating a tiger in the future. Sugu knows everyone's measurements, weight, and height, except for the little loli, of course. Changchun, Fletcher, and others are already young girls. Our poor Ayanamai, I remember Fuzu is about 100, anyway there's AG, I'll touch it again. Fuzang said, Admiral. Sugu didn't really do anything, he just felt the thrilling collision in his chest. An illegal building is an illegal building. I can be taller, I can be bigger. He said, you don't need to touch it. I have already felt it all. I'm not sure about H. It's hard to buy underwear for Fuzu's body. No, Fuzu doesn't wear underwear at all. She wears a yukata every day. It's common sense not to wear underwear under the yukata. Fuzu said, what a strange common sense, Admiral, you can wear underwear under a yukata, tube top. Sugu pretended to be surprised, isn't it a bandage? Fuzu said, the Admiral has strange hobbies. Remember, it's a cliché. It's just a matter of guarding the mansion. If you go out, you must put on your underwear. Sugu said and remembered, I found that Fuzu didn't go out for a long time. He was busy with things in the canteen and izakaya every day. I was sitting under the eaves drinking tea. Apart from the fireworks display and so on, I didn't seem to go out during the New Year last year. The last time I went out was the Menglanbone Festival. Let's take Fuzang to Chuangziu another day for a date and to buy some clothes. The Admiral is so gentle, it's okay Fuzang. You don't need to help buy clothes, Fuzang can tailor the clothes himself. No, I must, Sugu said, shirts, dresses, belly bands, open-chested sweaters, beautiful dresses, buy. Fuzu said, I seem to have heard strange words. Strange words? No, Sugu laughed, hey, Fuzang, I remembered that you have something to say. Fuzang said, no, absolutely not. Of course it won't work today, but it can happen next time. Sugu hugged Fuzang tightly and began to talk about love again. He fell asleep little by little. The next morning, he hugged the quilt and slept on the bed, watching Fuzang bathing in the morning light. She has a waist with a little flesh. She took off the yukata hanging on the wall and started to get dressed, revealing her slender, white neck. She lifted her long hair out of the yukata, which turned out to be so pleasing to the eye. The Admiral is also up. Sugu enjoyed Fuzang's service, thinking that it was such a decadent and depraved life, he liked it so much. Next, Fuzang sat in front of the dressing table, and Sugu stood behind to comb her hair and put on a beautiful tassel headband. This was not an obligation, but a right. Soon after he went out, he pushed the door open and stepped on the wooden floor under the eaves. The wind blew the wind chimes hanging under the eaves. Fuzang, Akage, and others liked to sit on their knees under the eaves and sip tea. Sugu looked outside. Beautiful Japanese garden. The pines, cypresses, red maples, cherry trees, and bamboo forests are lush and lush, the turquoise lake is naturally indispensable, and the island in the middle of the lake is naturally indispensable. Decorative stone bridges, paths shaded by bamboo forests are mottled with light and shadow, and there are moss-covered stone lanterns along the road, and a trickle of water flows into it. When the bamboo tube is filled with water, it will naturally droop. When the tail hits the bumper, it will make a crisp sound. Finally, the tube will be emptied of water and then tilted up again. This is called luwei, also called adding water. It is one of the representative elements in Japanese gardens. When the company first joined the town hall, she was a non-committal person. At that time, she began to expand and expand again. Now the town hall is several times larger than the previous town hall. The pigeon cage-like dormitories are long gone. Even if there are large squares and football fields, the golf course is still not enough. Fortunately, the governor's office defeated the deep-sea flagship several times and received generous rewards. Moreover, Hood was only the chairman in name only. In the past, he had made a lot of money by opening a company with great reputation, and had abundant funds. Otherwise, he would have been in a tight situation and would not have dared to be so presumptuous. There is only one cafeteria, so everyone must be together. Today, the Japanese team is in charge of the cafeteria. Fuzu entered the kitchen. Sugu met Kent at the door of the cafeteria. She was no longer a girl, but now a young woman named Kent was standing on the steps holding a ferocious tiger. "Good morning, Admiral." "Good morning." Sugu laughed. Bullying Kent was also one of his hobbies. Even though he had married the girl now, White Elephant Kent's armor was really thin. In the past, her room where she stayed overnight was all made of pillows, quilts, and pillows with big tiger patterns. Teacup, as if Bumblebee's room was full of B-25s, he walked over and hugged her gently, biting her ear gently. "Admiral," Kent covered his ears. Sugu said, "Without the Admiral, can Kent sleep at night?" "Narcissism," Kent said. "Kent is amazing," Sugu said. He snatched Kent's big tiger away and subconsciously squeezed the round fleshy ball on the big tiger's paw. "Give me back my Admiral." Kent's momentum suddenly weakened. "No," Sugu said, "and what did you call just now, Admiral?" "Old husband." Kent's voice stammered. "Consultant Su, why doesn't Kent wear a royal blue Victorian dress? Otherwise, the other purple dress will also work." Kent said, "Ming, I must wear it tomorrow." Sugu said, "Remember that the buttons on the chest cannot be buttoned." "Well, you can't wear underwear yet." "Me." Listening to Kent's stuttering, Counselor Su said, "What about me?" "Wow, I'm going to bite you, I'll bite you to death." She didn't shed any tears, and even when Kent was powerful, she was so angry that she picked up Sugu's hand and bit his finger, naturally not using any force. When Sugu looked at her, her big eyes flashed and she looked so cute. Fuzu and Kent are both easy to bully guys. In comparison, Leipzig is a bit difficult to deal with. Even though several years have passed, many people have not grown up, and the flowers they planted will not bloom, but the willows will grow unintentionally. Guys who had basically no training have grown up, and their bodies are still so slender, and a cup has been added to their chests, which is still grandettes. Character. It's a pity that it's a wedding ship now, and the town government still doesn't have the financial power. After all, Wisconsin, who is in charge of the financial power, is also a wedding ship. Except for an extra wedding dress, 2 rings, a vow ring and a pair of rings, they don't have any. From time to time, they complain about the lack of betrothal gifts. In fact, Sugu bought her gifts, such as brand name bags, expensive jewelry, etc., but she insisted on buying them from fakes and street stalls because they were cheap, so in the end she complained that he was stingy. Sugu met her in the corridor outside the warehouse. The girl had medium-long blonde hair that was always raised. She was wearing a neat sleeveless dress. She had delicate collarbones, round shoulders, beautiful armpits, and a ring on the ring finger of her left hand. If you don't touch him, it's a different matter if you give him money. He leans on the eaves pillar with his hands folded, and looks like he's waiting for him. It's definitely not good. Admiral, when Sugu walked in, Leipzig lowered his head and stood up from the eaves pillar, blocking his way. Sugu said, "Is something wrong in Leipzig?" "I want to tell you something," Leipzig said. "Explain." "Even if you are a couple, you have to give money. You can't do it without giving money. There is nothing so cheap in the world." Leipzig spread his fingers and shook his hand. "It takes so much at one time." Sugu rolled his eyes and said, "Say it as if you didn't enjoy it. You are heartless and I am unjust. If you want me to sleep with you or do that, I will also charge you." Sugu raised his hand and said, "This is the amount." "I'm afraid of you," Leipzig said. "Reach out." Sugu stretched out his hand in confusion, and Leipzig put a large amount of money in his hand. "Today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, the Admiral is mine this week, 10 times every night." With his hands behind his back, Leipzig snickered, and Sugu stared at the shiny coins in his hands, silent. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 1003. California used to like speed racing, and it only took less than 6 minutes to drive a motorcycle from the town hall to the county seat, but it often took 10 minutes to comfort the pale and frightened passengers on her motorcycle to release their hands holding her waist. There were really not many people in the governor's mansion who could ride on her motorcycle, and she finally got off the motorcycle intact. In the worst case, her legs were weak, and in the worst case, she lay on the ground and vomited. In the morning, Sugu saw California at the door of the garage. She was wearing a white dress, with long silky blonde hair, and looked at a ferocious black motorcycle with a somewhat touched expression. "Your car." Sugu walked to the motorcycle, touched the fuel tank, rubbed his fingers, and then found that the dashboard was completely invisible and was full of dust. Admiral, when California saw Sugu, even if it became a wedding ship, the habitual title has not changed. Sugu said, "It hasn't been opened for a year." Absolutely. California remembered that he used to do maintenance every week. Now he hasn't ridden a bicycle for a long time. I don't know why he has become less and less interested. He also hasn't played surfing, sailing, diving and other sports for a long time. Sugu said, "I don't know if it can still be opened." California is very confident, there will definitely be no problem. The key was inserted into the motorcycle, otherwise the nose and tires would be locked, and there would be no way to push it from the depths of the garage to the garage door. Bathed in the sun, since there was no ignition, Sugu calmly turned the throttle of the motorcycle. Speaking of which, this time a motorcycle is still a testimony of our love. California looked at Sugu, then at the motorcycle, and remembered what happened because of this motorcycle. Slow down, don't drive too fast in California, I feel like I'm flying." "Only 120 yards. California, help me, my legs are a little weak and I can't walk." "I warned you from the beginning. It's really exciting to experience it once in a while." "You're asking for trouble." "While driving, your hair hurt me so much." "Have no idea." "Hey, California, your ABS are great." "Admiral, you still care about my abdominal muscles. Are you really not taking advantage of me?" "Hey California, what's the name of your motorcycle?" "No name." "You don't have a name, so how can you do that?" "Mayan's little motorcycle is called Alfred, and the little motorcycle in South Dakota is called Windflower. Let me pick a name for you. It must be something wild and cool." "The name is so annoying, I really don't know how to choose a name. How about calling me Durlakan?" "Dulakan." "Durlahan is the name of the headless horseman." "It doesn't feel like much." "Hey, what is this?" "California, do you still smoke?" "I won't smoke it. I put it in there before." California, how about calling you boss lady from now on?" "What's the meaning? Isn't your name California?" "California, Hotel California, the proprietress of Hotel California. I don't remember the clue, why, and where it came from. Several years have passed, but the past events are still vivid in my mind. In fact, the two of them didn't talk much in the governor's mansion. Every time they rode together, they would sit on the rocks under the trees on the roadside to rest. The wind blew and the shadows of the trees were dancing. They drank water and had the opportunity to chat. Often the afternoon would pass by just like that, and we would become closer little by little. California thought, involuntarily showing a gentle smile. Sugu said at this time, California, are you free? Let's clean this motorcycle. How can we let our hero eat dust? Good. I'm going to find a bucket to get water and a rag. It's in the garage. I remembered that there are faucets and water pipes in the garage. Just take the water and flush it. An unknown bird stood on the branch and chirped. Until noon, the two of them cleaned the motorcycle. California tried it and it still started. Sugu said, long time no see, California will give me a ride again, let's go to the county seat. But we haven't driven in California for so long, so we should go slower, safety first. Tomorrow. California lowered his head, I'm wearing a skirt today. Sugu looked at California and said, I still like California's old outfit, black jeans, dark blue autumn clothes, black leather gloves, black motorcycle helmet, visor, and brown goggles. Whether he is wearing a motorcycle helmet or holding a motorcycle helmet, when he leans on the motorcycle, he looks so charming and handsome. Really, California put on the outfit Sugu mentioned the next day, but that was a story later. By the way, I remembered that California hasn't exercised for a long time. Let me touch it. Do you still have any abdominal muscles? Sugu stretched out his hand and touched California's belly. In fact, he touched it often. California has no abdominal muscles for a long time. At least it's not obvious, the lower abdomen is quite soft. California said, it feels like the Admiral is like a child. Sugu was amused and hugged California gently. Some people become wedding ships and become stable. Some people become a wedding boat and do not change at all. They do not mature. Instead, they become more and more exaggerated. This is the case in South Dakota. The cafe in the town hall is no longer what it used to be. It now occupies a larger area and is more luxuriously decorated. The sun was still shining brightly outside the window, even though it had already entered autumn. The huge glass of the floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the luxurious furnishings in the cafe, and also reflected Washington's side face that had become intellectual, mature, and confident. His white hair was not tied into a ponytail, and he had become she has long wavy hair parted diagonally, her legs are crossed, and she has a faint smile on her lips. She is reading a magazine, and the steam from the coffee cup on her hand is spreading in the air. Peanut stew. Washington glanced up at South Dakota. She had fluffy white wavy hair, a lace headband, and blue-rimmed glasses. She was wearing a plain lapel dress. She was dressed like a literary girl. To be honest, she was a little bit rustic. She put her left hand on the table and was wearing a pledge. Since becoming a wedding ring, I have changed it into a matching ring. I have taught everyone about the difference between a vow ring and a matching ring. The Admiral is really unscrupulous and will not refuse anyone who comes to me, such as a fat man, a dwarf, or a black girl. South Dakota said, what are you looking at me like that? Washington raised his head and gave South Dakota a cold look, then lowered his head again. Go and play, don't disturb me, otherwise don't blame me for being rude, I hit someone. A fierce woman, South Dakota said, she is really a violent woman, a white-haired violent woman. She will always take out an axe and threaten people. South Dakota held the passion fruit juice and took a sip. She thought for a moment and said, Washington gets angry so easily. Is it because the Admiral hasn't been to your room for several days? Washington's eyes fell on the magazine, but her mind was not there at all. She thought to herself that the admiral had indeed not come to her room for some days. The number of wedding ships was now close to 70. There was nothing she could do about it. No matter what, she looked forward to it and missed that warm one. Embrace. If you are dissatisfied here, you are dissatisfied there, and if there is anything you don't like, you will get angry at every turn. Washington, let me tell you, people with bad tempers and irritability are prone to wrinkles. Don't enter menopause early. Listen. It seems like South Dakota cares about Washington. Wrinkle. Washington calmly looked at the floor-length mirror. With a little reflection, he saw that there were no horizontal lines on his forehead and no crow's feet at the corners of his eyes. He couldn't stay up late reading anymore. He was a little worried about the bags and dark circles under his eyes. He didn't know why he suddenly felt a little stressed. Washington, you can't do this. We are good friends and I'm telling you why the admiral doesn't like you and doesn't go to your room. The admiral told me personally. He said you were rude and a tomboy. You didn't look like a girl at all. Completely ignorant of emotions, rigid, unable to cooperate, lying on the bed like a dead person. South Dakota continued. She snickered as she spoke. It was really interesting to teach Washington a lesson. Washington is a calm barrister. Of course she will not get angry and immediately get up and find someone to pound the table. Thinking about it carefully, she is not that ignorant of emotions, although she is not that open-minded, such as Missouri, Colorado, Mutsu, etc. like Helena, etc. Most likely they are using themselves as counterexamples to coax South Dakota to cooperate, or they are talking nonsense to others, and demeaning themselves to make South Dakota happy. So is this what the admiral told you? Washington did not tell the truth, as if he regarded South Dakota as a confidant. South Dakota, it turns out that I have missed you, it turns out that you care about me so much. I also told you that the admiral secretly talked to me. He said you were short, fat as a ball of flesh, and black, like black coal, and extremely ugly. Why did he give you the ring? Just to see how pitiful you were. Huh, South Dakota couldn't be as calm as Washington. She panicked, took a step back, and stammered, really, really. False, Washington said. South Dakota said, is it really fake? Washington, it's true, of course it's true. South Dakota reacted, it must be fake. After working hard in the morning and taking a nap at noon, Sugu came to the coffee shop. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Washington and South Dakota facing off against each other. This was almost a daily routine in the garrison, but he felt uneasy for no reason. Just as Sugu sat down on the sofa in the booth, South Dakota ran over. She knocked her down and complained, "Admiral, let me tell you, Washington bullied me," she said. Washington also came over and she said, "Admiral," South Dakota said, "she said you said that I." South Dakota said, "What I said is true." "Admiral, did you say that?" Sugu looked at Washington. Washington was smiling. He seemed lifeless. He immediately surrendered. He hugged Washington and said, "Wife, peanut wife, my favorite wife. Do you think it is possible? Of course I lied to South Dakota. It's not true at all, just to make her happy." South Dakota stood nearby, his face puffed up in anger. Washington let Sugu hold him tightly, and even raised his arms to hug Sugu, looking at South Dakota with a smile. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 1004. As the sun sets, the sea breeze blows the fallen leaves on the concrete floor and spins them in the air. Although the weather is still a bit hot at noon and afternoon, there is already a hint of coolness in this autumn evening. If possible, it is better to put on a coat. After a sumptuous dinner, Sugu walked around and walked to the coffee shop. The place was always so lively, with people playing cards and shogi. Many people gathered in a circle and played something. It seemed like a king's game. The king ordered number 3 and number 5 kiss. Number 3 Chumi's face turns red, number 5 Suzuya is not shy at all. Walking and walking, Sugu saw Rabbit Princeton performing magic in the corner of the coffee shop, with many little Lolita in the audience. It was rare that Kamichia did not harass her younger sister Aviel, who stared at the performance intently. Cushing held a glass of juice and sipped at it, and Rafi held a large bucket of popcorn. The black magic hat was placed on the table. Kamichia looked inside the magic hat and saw that it was dark inside. He reached out and touched it again. It was empty and there was nothing. The little girl likes to join in the fun. Kamichia checked the magic hat, and the others also insisted on checking it, and it was finally over. You have checked, there is no problem. Princeton looked at everyone with a smile. No problem. Then I'll start, Princeton said, putting his hand into the magic hat and asking, what do you like? Thatcher, who has blonde twin tails and is a snack foodie, said, hamburgers. No hamburgers, next time, Princeton thought to himself, and he must prepare some candies next time, from gummies to chocolates. Do you want to see rabbits, hedgehogs, or pigeons? No pigeons, said Carmichael. Rabbit, is the rabbit ready? Princeton put his hand inside the magic hat and pretended to be groping. Kamichia moved closer to take a look, and Lafayette also moved closer. Princeton couldn't help but said, sit back, how can I perform when you are looking at me like this? Rafi said, if you don't show it to us, it must be fake. What kind of cover-up is used? Princeton said, magic is inherently fake. I am not the creator. God says that if there is light, there will be light. Lafayette said helplessly, okay. Rabbit, 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 white rabbit. Until the little loli sat back on the sofa and couldn't see what was going on inside the magic hat, Princeton muttered and quickly grabbed the ears from the magic hat and pulled out a rabbit, but the little black rabbit, she shook her head, there's something wrong, the color is a little wrong. Lafayette said, Sister Rabbit is so naughty. Princeton wanted to slap Lafayette on the forehead, but he couldn't hold it back. This was the effect of the show. He saw her put the little black rabbit back into the magic hat, and when she took it out again, it turned into a little white rabbit. Sorry, it was a mistake just now, now it's okay. Sugu sat down on the sofa and held Cushing in his arms. This energetic little loli was really cute. Watching the Princeton show, rabbits, hedgehogs, and pigeons filled the table, and there was only one green-maned lizard, and then they were all put back into the magic hat and disappeared. I really don't know where Princeton took out so many things and where he hid them. Anyway, he definitely couldn't hide them on his body. Sugu said, actually, I can also perform magic. Lafayette said, I know the butterfly card, it's such a simple magic trick. It's not the butterfly card. Sugu waved his hand, it's a very powerful magic trick. Princeton put away the props, put the magic hat on his head, sat down on the sofa, and she shouted, everyone applaud, we welcome the Admiral to perform magic for us. Bang bang bang. Warm applause rang out. Sugu rubbed Cushing's face, put her down, stood up, and said, since you are so enthusiastic, okay, let me find some props to open your eyes. Sugu ran to the bar of the coffee shop and saw Colorado, Nevada, Oklahoma, and others sitting in a row, each holding a glass of wine. Juno was from Richelieu, and her bartending skills were not bad at all. I found many props, including a tape measure, a flashlight, and a whole box of tissue paper. Let me tell you first, it is very impolite to interrupt during the performance. Of course you can cheer, but no one is allowed to speak while I am performing. Len immediately pursed his lips tightly, acting quite exaggeratedly. Got it, someone else said. Sugu reminded, especially Lafite, you can't speak. Know it? Sugu picked up the flashlight in a serious manner and moved it around and around. Everyone, pay attention and hold your breath. Now, everyone, open your eyes wide and don't blink. 1, 2, 3, when you witness the miracle. Sugu pushed the flashlight switch with his thumb. There was no explosion, no music, and no, don't look at it as a flashlight, it's actually a hairdryer, of course. A light stretched out, it's on, you can see it's on. Sugu took a flashlight and shined it on Ian's face. Little Loli ducked her head and shone it on Clarkston's face again. She said seriously and exaggeratedly, it's a miracle. Isn't it amazing? The little Loli was stunned and had no idea what the Admiral was up to. Sugu put down the flashlight, picked up the tape measure from the table, stretched the tape, and then retracted the tape as soon as he let go. He did it again, once, twice, 3 times. The last time he pulled out the tape measure and pretended to blow on it. His fingers quietly pushed the switch of the tape measure, and then he let go this time. The tape measure did not retract, but it swept across everyone's faces and made a loud snap of the fingers. Princeton was the first to react. Looking at Sugu's triumphant expression, he burst into laughter. It was clearly a joke instead of magic. Sugu put down the tape measure again, put the paper on the table, pointed at the paper, and asked everyone to pay attention. He pulled out a piece of paper, then another piece of paper, and then pulled out more than a dozen pieces of paper in succession. He smoothed his hair with a proud expression on his face. How does my expression look? Kamichia laughed heartily, Lafite slapped the table and laughed. Many little Lolita without humor were still confused. Only Lan murmured to himself, it's amazing. Princeton glanced at Lan, this little girl was really hopeless, and then looked at Sugu, the Admiral is an idiot, he can't do magic at all. Sugu collected the pieces of toilet paper he took out, and smiled at Princeton with a meaningful smile, of course I'm not as good as you. I waved my hand and turned around. Princeton's face flushed for a moment. Rabbit Princeton, I heard everyone said that she used to be a girl with many freckles. There is no point in discussing the game portrait. Anyway, when Sugu saw her in person, she had already transformed or grown, becoming youthful, beautiful and energetic. In order to make the little Loli happy, Sugu often asked her for magic tricks. Even now, the level of magic is still the same. Of course, he knows the principles, but his hand speed cannot keep up. He lost something and gained something, but he got the girl. I think I got the ring 2 years ago. The most powerful magic trick in Princeton, Sugu stayed in her room at night, and saw her fully dressed, turning into a maid, then turning into a beautiful dealer, and then into a bunny girl, with her bunny ears raised high. The fluffy tail is so cute, and I don't want to turn around at the last time. For example, if I turn around and take off all my clothes, I really can't stand it and beg for nothing. Royal Oak. Royal Oak. Counterattack and push Royal Oak. If you want to sleep, go back to the room and sleep well. Royal Oak finally woke up, counterattack. He countered, go back to sleep. I see. Sugu happened to pass by. Royal Oak was awake and still not energetic. At this time, he was lying on the table. His original neat bangs became messy. His satin-like black hair spread like clouds on the table. His eyes were sleepy and his face was a little bit blushed, with a few stray strands of hair in the corner of her mouth. 2 buttons on the chest of her white shirt were unbuttoned, revealing a shocking expanse of white and greasy skin, the northern hemisphere, the valley, and black lace. It's very cold to sleep here. Sugu looked at Royal Oak's thin clothes. My wife is here to love her. He quickly took off his coat and put it on her, touched her face, and then helped her. She buttoned her chest. Admiral, Royal Oak saw Sugu. It's okay, Sugu paused and looked away. Royal Oak, I'll take you back. Royal Oak stood up staggeringly, with Sugu's coat on top and her hands crossed on her shoulders. Below was a black sexy hip-hugging skirt, paired with a pair of long black silk legs. She looked delicate and inspired a person's emotions. Desire to sin. Sugu glanced at Royal Oak again, feeling something was about to move in his heart. Girl, run away, don't stay here anymore, I'm afraid I can't control myself. Just push you down on the table, watch you twist around on the table, hold you down tightly, bite your ears, blow air, and whisper Royal Oak is so beautiful Royal Oak, I like you so much I'm starting listen to your groan. Pushing it down on the wall of the corridor outside the cafe, listening to the sound of other people chatting in the cafe, listening to your cry, unbutton your white shirt and put your hand in it. Press you against the mirror in the corridor. On the face reflected in the mirror, the white teeth are biting your lips tightly. There are footsteps upstairs, someone is coming, getting closer and closer. Dragging him into the dark corridor on the first floor, no matter how hard he struggled, he would never let go until he got what he wanted. He helped him into the room, put him on the bed, untied his belt in an instant, and then pounced on him like a hungry tiger pounced on a sheep. Press it in the bathroom, turn on the shower, and the water will spill out to wet your clothes. The faint outline and color of your underwear will be fully exposed. Your hair will be wet, and it will be posted on your face. It must be particularly tempting. Violate you. Violate you. Violate you. My little lamb. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 1005. The garrison begins to expand. What building is the most important? It turns out that there are only 2 dormitories in the town guard mansion. When everyone returned to the town guard mansion, they suddenly lived in various places. Fortunately, there were many older sisters living together in the same room, and many little Lolita living in the collective dormitory. If 1 room per person is no longer enough. No matter what, as companies joined the town hall and the town hall began to expand, the town hall did not have as many people as it does now, and it was far from being stretched. The town hall has always lacked a large auditorium, so any activities can only be held in the cafeteria or outdoor playground, which is very inconvenient. Or a football field. Different people have different opinions. Anyway, for Sugu, he had not slept well for several days and racked his brains for the large bathing house located in the southeast corner of the town guard house. Roman baths, Japanese hot springs, or something else, which style is better? There are almost 200 people in the town hall. Although it is difficult for everyone to be together, just in case, it is necessary to ensure that the large bathing house can accommodate at least 200 people at the same time. Think about it again, this is a century-old plan, you can't be short-sighted and only see what's in front of you. More and more ship girls will join the garrison in the future. The area must be large enough, the bigger the better. In addition, the function can not only be used for bathing, but can be enriched. There must be no lack of places for leisure, entertainment, and relaxation, and we strive to make it the most popular place in the Tutelary mansion. In this way, feast your eyes to your heart's content. All in all, the company hired a professional construction team affiliated with the Kanyang headquarters. Sugu from the modern era provided many ideas that transcended this era. Yuberi was responsible for the improvement of the equipment. The large bathhouse of the Tutelary mansion was completely more luxurious than anyone imagined. Having said that, in order to maintain the normal operation of this large bathhouse, there is a lot of daily expenses. Of course, for the world's #1 garrison, it is just a small expense. After sending the Royal Oak back to the room, without any mercy on his lips or hands, Sugu walked into the large bathing house of the governor's house at night. Just as he walked in, he saw Mutsu walking out, wearing wooden clogs and a plain yukata, ankle length. Crossed collar, wide sleeves, long silky hair tied up with hairpins, hair loose, and yukata also loose. Round vaults, tall columns, beautiful rose windows, warm yellow lights. The floor of the large bathhouse is covered with beige tiles, and there are tall cabinets in the corners, with small compartments and small compartments. The place used to store shampoo and soap has a huge mirror installed on the wall, and the shower head hangs next to it. Of course, you must wash it thoroughly before entering the bath. The water bottle held by the goddess statue pours water outside, and the heat rises. Living water is necessary. Z-17 was fighting with Z-18 with a head full of foam. The two little destroyers have grown up now, but they still have childish personalities. They fight and fight every day. It is better to say that it is even more excessive. Atago, who has long purple hair, is sitting on the bench, facing the mirror, washing his hair. There is a rest area next to the large oval bath with sofas, tables, and chairs. It is usually lively and bustling. Today, only the three Königsberg sisters are sitting at a table, each holding a can of beer in their hands. The two Thunder and Lightning sisters are wrapped in bath towels. With one hand on the hip and head tilted back, he drank the coffee and milk in one breath, his face full of happiness. U-47 and U-81 were fighting in the bathtub until the Prince of Wales glanced at them and they became quiet. Xianghe was sitting dignifiedly, while Ziwehe was lying facelessly on the edge of the bathtub, exposing his smooth naked back. I don't know why, but the two sisters have obviously practiced enough, and many people in the town have grown up, but they are still the same. There is also the reputation of mature and plump, tall, and sexy Richelieu. There are wonderful scenery everywhere. Sugu walked all the way over without squinting. After all, he had seen everything there was to see in the several years since the establishment of the public bathhouse. Not everyone is a wedding ship, only a third of them are less than 70, and there are many little Lolita among them. Mixed bathing is enough. In fact, there was no mixed bathing at the beginning. Even as an admiral, you can't even think about it. After making 3 arrangements and making repeated promises, it was not easy to get approval. As the only man in the garrison, you must behave yourself. You can't walk around shamelessly and openly. With a bath towel wrapped around his lower body, Sugu walked across the room. Wearing slippers and stepping on the stone road, Sugu's destination was the outdoor bath. The bathing pool was hidden among lush shrubs and a circle of evergreen trees. The short landscape lampposts standing on the roadside emitted dim light, reflecting the pool water. Sugu walked from the stone path to the wooden floor, took off his slippers, and holding onto the railing and walking along the steps deep into the water, he walked into the bathtub, then jumped into the water to wet his hair. Admiral. The woman with white hair and red eyes is the light cruiser USS St. Louis. She was brought back from the previous attack. She is really beautiful. As the 8th Brooklyn-class ship, Helena's sister, her figure is really pitiful. Of course, the main reason is also compared with Helena's world-class plump bust. If compared with the 4 Katir-class sisters who are also light cruisers, let alone a certain white-haired Lolita. Admiral. Helena was with her sister and she waved. In the past, when the large bathhouse was just built, Sugu would come at a time when there were many people. Now that he was tired, he might as well come later. It's not that I'm worried about not being able to keep up with my nutrition and deliberately avoiding people. It's mainly that it wouldn't be nice to go to bed after taking a bath. Even though it was very late and it was an outdoor bath, there were still many people here. They greeted each other. Sugu didn't know how to get to the deepest part of the bath. He looked around and found no one. A man is still a boy until he dies. He usually teaches little Lolita not to be too naughty and not to fight in the bath. Now Sugu is shaking his fists in the bath and doing Tai Chi on the water. Admiral, what are you doing? Hearing the sudden sound, Sugu stiffened. He turned and looked in the direction of the sound, and saw a person hiding in the darkness beside the bath. Bushu. Yeah, Buletin responded. Is the Admiral boxing? Buletin Tiao said, the Admiral is such an adult, why are he still acting like a child? Sugu smiled dryly and asked without comment, why aren't you with Dei Feng? Buletin Tiao said, she was fascinated by reading, so I came first. Sugu looked up at the sky. There were stars, and the sea breeze was blowing from a distance. He quickly squatted down and said, when the wind blows, it feels really cold. Is it cold? Buletin Tuo said, I don't feel it. Buletin Tiao said, the Admiral is too weak. Sugu asked meaningfully, don't you know whether I am weak or not? I know, Buletin Tiao said, super weak. Okay, you win. Sugu felt a little aggrieved. He knew very well that he would have to talk about it 10 times a night, and that one was really not good. Sugu suddenly said, I always forgot to ask, at that time, did Dei Feng scold you? Dei Feng is really an arrogant girl. No matter how much she likes her, she can only express her feelings in words and dare not say it in person. As expected, snacks are more important. Dango is her favorite, with mochi, yokon, and steamed buns. Lots of snacks, in no particular order. I had no choice but to help with the matchmaking, and after 2 attempts, the matchmaker got through first. What? Buletin Tiao was a little confused, but he reacted after a moment, no, Dei Feng won't curse people even if she is angry. As long as she says a few nice words, she will forgive them. Sugu said, Dei Feng is actually a bit heartless. Yes, Buletin Tiao smiled. She remembered that she had just received the ring and was discovered by Dei Feng. When she found out what happened, the girl turned pale and said congratulations. She did not speak to her for several days, sincerely. Apologized and then forgiven. Buletin Tiao's appearance completely poked Sugu's cuteness, especially the tear mole in the corner of his eye, which was the finishing touch. Without it, the taste would definitely be less. Even so, Buletin Tiao still took the initiative. Sugu said, but I really can't tell that you are still a carnivore. It's not enough to just wait. Buletin now said, you will suffer a loss. Sugu said, don't you usually like to say things like don't be so hasty? Buletin Tuo said, there are times when you are in a hurry, and there are times when you are slow. Sugu said, anyway, I only know how to prevent fire, theft, and girlfriends. At least at this point. Buko shook her head and laughed, Miss Dei Feng is not even half-assed. Have you not been beaten enough by her? Sugu said, your mouth is really unforgiving, and it has not changed after so long. In fact, he has changed a lot despite being stubborn. Of course, his self-righteous character is still a little bit there. I remember again when you first came to the garrison, that mouth, tut tut tut. No matter how beautiful you are, if you hadn't helped the Prince of Wales before and were a friend of the Prince of Wales, you would have been kicked out at that time. You really deserve to be beaten and dealt with. Sugu laughed, it's a small and crude garrison, and it's a terrible admiral. How dare you say that? Buletin Tiao said, isn't it? I admit that the garrison was a bit crude at that time. Advisor Su, am I a bad admiral? The front point, I didn't take a closer look at the time. In fact, apart from being a little smaller, the guardhouse is still very good. Boneo said, the back point, is not tall and not very handsome. Also, don't think that I haven't noticed that you have been secretly looking at me, especially here, my breasts. Put one hand on your chest without scratching. That dress you were wearing, a one-shoulder low-cut top. Sugu said, I'm a man, I'm already very restrained. Buletin now sneered when he heard Sugu's words. He smiled relentlessly and gently, my charm is indeed very high. Sugu kept looking, and saw the girl's long black hair tied up, shoulders exposed, snow-white northern hemisphere,
delicate collarbones, charming neck, holding a pool of water with both hands together. Buletinho's charm is indeed very high. Sugu approached Buletinho and gently hugged her.